multiple times a day if I could. I'm just saying. Anyway, yeah, again, you know the drill. Go to the Discord link, which is you'll find the link tree that's in my bio. If you have a difficult time joining the Discord, please either reach out to a moderator or just copy the link and put it in a browser. I match it, open it right up. Check out the merch in the merch store. There's two. The first one you'll see, the first link you'll see, it says Tobias. That happens to be my son. He's an artist. If you like some of his original works, everything that's in there, check it out. You'll also find the link to the Facts HQ, which is our Facts merch store, and it's also at factsstillmatter.site. And as always, we appreciate you being here. It is Free Speech Friday. A lot to talk about. Before we get into, I want to talk about some of the things that happened yesterday with the various statements from the president, but I briefly want to talk about how we are going to, this is a decision that I've made collectively with my mod team. Obviously, as we get more and more information from the Department of Justice, the Department of Injustice, the Department of Corruption, as it relates to the Jeffrey files, it would be easy. It would be very, very easy for me to just sit here and read to you the salacious contents of these emails, these letters, these statements. It would be easy. We've made the decision that I'm not going to do that. Partly because we got some feedback from the show we did on Wednesday, where we chose not to address it in detail. With that being said, we will still cover it. We will just approach it more from a high level. For example, we're going to talk a little bit today about the Jeffrey Nasser letter. Not because it's, well, yes, it's sensationalized because of the gory details. Volume low? I think it might just be you, Cindy. I don't think the volume's low. Should be good. It would be easy for us to, like I said, just to lean into all the graphic details. We're going to talk about it, because we're going to talk about whether or not, because there's reporting now that the letter is fake. Well, we know that that's not true, right? We're also going to talk a little bit about this whole situation with Lake Michigan. And that whole story is just wild. I don't need to get into the details of that report. I'm sure you know enough about that now. But we'll talk about it from high level, because we can link it to other things. When you start to dig, this is again the advantage of being an independent journalist and you got a little time on your hands, you understand that goes back to 1993 and Donald Trump's desire to have a riverboat casino in Gary, Indiana, that eventually would work its way into Lake Michigan off the coast. It's a little bit of privacy. So all these things kind of put you in a place where you can use critical thinking and then put yourself in this position to be able to ask questions. So that's kind of how we're going to approach it today. I don't want, we've made a commitment that we will cover this story, and we will. I don't want to re-traumatize anyone. I don't think that that's necessary. It happens enough daily. For the women who join us today, or anybody who's been a victim of SA, you don't need to be re-traumatized. So we won't do that. We'll do our best. I will do my best. The commitment I have to you, it's not going to be perfect. I may make mistakes. These things get me angry, as they should all of us, because I don't think that we're angry enough, quite frankly. But that's my commitment to you, and I hope that works. Okay, so briefly, let's talk about the holiday messages from Trumpists, because it tells all of us exactly who these people are. First, I'm going to play the announcement from the president about the military actions in Nigeria, and also about the new Trump fleet. This is a wild story to me, that we have to go through this exercise of building warships because Pete Hegseth and the president just get off on it.
At the Department of War, we're restoring the warrior ethos. In fact, the president mentioned the NDAA. We put into law merit-based. We put into law getting rid of DEI and political correctness. That's now part of how our military operates. And you've seen it in record recruiting in the spirit of the Department of War. We're rebuilding the military. President Trump did it once. He's doing again with historic investments today in shipbuilding. And we're reestablishing deterrence. Whether that's at the border, whether it's through Golden Dome, what happened with Midnight Hammer and what Iran found out, those drug boats, and of course the Houthis opening up the shipping lanes. American strength is back on the world stage. And the announcement of the Golden Fleet, anchored by new battleships, the biggest and most lethal ever, accomplishes all three of those things and marks a generational commitment to American sea power.
Does anybody give a fuck about new battleships? Does anybody really give a fuck about new battleships? I mean, to me, this is just Pete Hegseth spanking it over in the corner, thinking that I'm the Secretary of War and I'm going to be responsible for building new battleships. The president then sort of doubles down on the message to try to, and I have a theory on this, and I'll after I play the sound for you.
Beautiful. Wow, it's beautiful. It's the first renderings of what we're doing. So I want to wish everybody a big hello and Merry Christmas and welcome to Mar-a-Lago for this exciting announcement of the new Golden Fleet. We're calling it the Golden Fleet that we're building for the United States Navy. As you know, we're desperately in need of ships. Our ships are, some of them have gotten old and tired and
really
obsolete, and we're going to go the exact opposite direction. We're delighted to be joined by Secretary of War Pete Hegseth.
My point, and I don't even need to play all the sound for you, but it's obviously they need a distraction. So in my opinion, what part of this is to say, like, hey, we know mouth breathers, those of you on our base who just do whatever we tell you. Things have been pretty bad lately. You know, there hasn't been the best news on us. So you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna make big boats. Yeah. And then Pete's over in the corner jerking it. You know, and he's getting off on that. And then the president will double down on it, thinking, yeah, we're going to build new boats that he's not even going to be able to recognize until 2030 at the minimum by the time they're done. But using our taxpayer dollars to build new battleships. Why the fuck do we need new battleships? Because China and other countries or other adversaries who at least used to be adversaries are like, go ahead, spend your money on new battleships. Meanwhile, we will continue to reinvest in our manufacturing sector. We'll continue to innovate. We'll continue to make, drones and or whatever else. And thank you, by the way, for giving us access to NVIDIA chips so that we can lap you when it comes to AI. Really? This is what we're going to do? We can spend money on battleships when American families can't afford to make ends meet. We're going to spend money on battleships when I'm losing health care in 6 days. That's fine though, right? Nothing to see here. We're going to just spend money on battleships? Who the fuck needs a battleship? The fucking Trump fleet? Are you kidding me? The Golden Fleet? Really? Is that important to anyone? Is it really something that we should be doing it from a priority perspective? Don't we have things that are more important? And here's the thing. See, this is the power of this misinformation and the bullshit rhetoric. What the friends will say, thank you, Danny, what their friends on the right will say will be like, you guys don't think we should have a strong military? It's got nothing to do with it. We already have the strongest military in the world by far. Our military budget surpasses the next 10 countries combined, and all those countries are our fucking allies. Do we fucking need it? No. How about take the cost of one battleship and pay for fucking ACA subsidies, or pay teachers more, or fund public health, or prop up SNAP, or extend Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare? These are our priorities? It's just an act. It's all it is. It's just a fucking act. It's just saber rattling. It's just limp dicks trying to say that we're strong and we're tough and we're fucking alphas. I mean, give me a break. Give me a fucking break. It's just pitiful. And you conservatives, you fiscal conservatives, you guys think this is a good idea? It's not. It's stupid. So then we get reporting from overnight, a great Christmas message. And there's a few things that the president's been chirping on, so I'll do my best to play them all for you.
Tonight, at my direction as Commander-in-Chief, the United States launched a powerful and deadly strike against ISIS terrorist scum in northern Nigeria, who have been targeting and viciously unaliving, primarily, innocent Christians at levels not seen for many years and even centuries.
Okay, first of all, ISIS hasn't been around for centuries, but we'll leave that right there.
I have previously Halsey warned these terrorists that if they did not stop the unaliving of Christians, there would be hell to pay. And tonight, there was. The Department of War executed numerous perfect strikes, as only the United States is capable of doing. Under my leadership, our country will not allow radical Islamic terrorism to prosper. May God bless our military, and Merry Christmas to all, including the dead terrorists, of which there will be many more if their unaliving of Christians continues.
Peace and love. Peace and love. Yeah. Yep. Merry Christmas to all, including the dead terrorists. Okay. Such a heartfelt message. So no new wars, no spending money overseas, and now we're fine this. And now we're fine with this. We're fine now with building new battleships. What do we need? What do we need battleships for? Battleships are offensive weapons. What do we need them for? Deterrence? We need battleships for that? Okay. Just want to make sure I understood. The AP's got more on the story. Islamic State targets in Nigeria reportedly after the group's been unaliving Christians. Anyway, okay. In addition, there were some Christmas messages from the president. I'm first going to play some sound, in case you haven't heard some of the messages from the president, taking phone calls from school-age children. One in particular really stood out to me. This one.
All over the world, we want to make sure that Santa is.
Hang on one second. Here you go.
All over the world, we want to make sure that Santa is being good. Santa's a very good person. We want to make sure that he's not infiltrated, that we're not infiltrating into our country a bad Santa. So we found out that Santa is good. Santa loves you. Santa loves Oklahoma like I do. You know, Oklahoma was very good to me in the election, so I love Oklahoma. Don't ever leave Oklahoma, okay?
You're talking to like a 7 or 8 year old kid, right? And you plant the bad Santa thing in his head, infiltrate, then you make it about Oklahoma and how Oklahoma was good to him. Okay, that's fine. There were a couple more that I'll play because it just got worse. That was probably the worst of them all, just because of the audience. Well, they're all in the audience. This was interesting. He's trying to send Melania a little love, and this is how this conversation went.
Is this the greatest First Lady? People love our First Lady, right, honey? Look at her. How elegant is the First Lady? Look at you. I'm not supposed to be doing this, you know.
Anybody else? Are they calling? They do? Okay.
She's just like, next. What's the next phone call? Next, please. Next. Can somebody get me off this fucking ride? Next, please. Okay. Yeah, that was good. That was really good. I'm so glad you're so aware of your surroundings, sir, that even your wife's like, what the fuck? And here's another one. This one is even more disturbing and disgusting. But again, we're not gonna normalize his behavior, but it's becoming normalized.
I'm currently for Copenhagen, Denmark.
Whoa. That's pretty good.
Merry Christmas. You too.
Hi. How are you?
Thank you. Merry Christmas, Mom.
This is Krill.
Hi, Krill.
I'm from Pennsylvania.
Right, I know. Oh, Pennsylvania is great. We won Pennsylvania. Actually, 3 times, but we won Pennsylvania. We won it in a landslide, so I love Pennsylvania.
Jesus Christ.
So Santa right now is in Copenhagen.
Don't leave Oklahoma because we won it in a landslide. We love Pennsylvania because we won it in a landslide, even though you didn't. Okay, that's fine. Nothing to see here. And I think I've got one more. Maybe. Hang on one second. And then I'm just gonna read you the messages because they're just so lovely. They're so heartfelt. It's just so fucking embarrassing. I mean, it's just beyond embarrassing, and people don't care. His supporters just don't give a shit. They just don't care. Is it this one? Yeah, I think it's this one. Yeah, here you go.
Like Santa to bring?
Not cool.
Not coal.
Not coal. No, you don't want coal. Well, coal is, you mean clean, beautiful coal. Coal is clean and beautiful. Please remember that. What would you like Santa to bring?
Nice. Clean and beautiful coal. It's totally fine, Krampus, Trumpus. Nothing to see here. And they think it's funny. I know, people think it's funny. They generally think it's funny. It's fucking disturbing. It's just like, I don't even know how to frame it other than it's just pathetic. And his defenders will say, oh, he's just being funny. He's just trolling you guys. No, he's a fucking idiot. The man doesn't have an empathetic bone in his body. He can't talk to children. We know there are only certain ways in which he talks to children when they're objects and when they're victims and survivors. But it's beyond embarrassing. All right, these are his Christmas messages now that we're using the United States military as we prepare for new golden fucking battleships. So let's go in order. This was last night's.
Merry Christmas to all, including the many sleazebags who love J.E., gave him bundles of money, went to his island, attended his parties, and thought he was the greatest guy on earth, only to drop him like a dog when things got too hot. Falsely claimed they had nothing to do with him, didn't know him, said he was a disgusting person, and then blame, of course, President Donald J. Trump, who was actually the only one who did drop Epstein, and long before it became fashionable to do so. When their names get brought out in ongoing radical left witch hunts, plus one low-life Republican, Massey, and it's revealed that they are Democrats, there'll be a lot of explaining to do, much like there was when it was made public that the Russia hoax was a fictitious story, a total scam, and had nothing to do with Trump. The failing New York Times, among many others, was forced to apologize for their bad and faulty election reporting, even to the point of losing many subscribers due to their highly inaccurate, fake coverage. Now, the same losers are at it again, only this time, so many of their friends, mostly innocent, will be badly hurt and reputationally tarnished. But sadly, that's the way it is in the world of corrupt Democrat politics. Enjoy what may be your last Merry Christmas. President Donald J. Trump.
Yeah, that's nice. And then here's the final one.
Merry Christmas to all, including the radical left scum that is doing everything possible to destroy our country, but are failing badly. We no longer have open borders, men and women's sports, transgender for everyone, or weak law enforcement. What we do have is a record stock market and 401ks, lowest crime numbers in decades, no inflation, and yesterday a 4.3 GDP, 2 points better than expected. Tariffs have given us trillions of dollars in growth and prosperity, and the strongest national security we've ever had. We are respected again, perhaps like never before. God bless America, President DJT.
That's your president, ladies and gentlemen. That is your president. That's him. One fucking lie after another. One story after another. One made up, blabber. That is the president of the United States, using his true social platform to do that. The GDP thing, I want to talk about it a little bit. I'm not an economist, but from what I've read, yes, the GDP is up. A lot of it has to do with the fact that we don't have as many imports. Now you can say that's tariffs and then American domestic manufacturing filling in the gaps. And in some cases, that might be partly true. But we know the middle class and the lower class, the working class, are not spending money. We know that. So that means that the investments, America purchases, the consumption of our society is coming from the top. So it's an artificial number. There's no doubt about it, as is the inflation numbers. So the MAGA chuds that are out there believing that the inflation is down, it's not. Well, it is when you remove like 75% of the measurements, just like the Thanksgiving bundle, right? Tried to convince his base that the Thanksgiving bundle, when you compare this year to last year, is 25% cheaper. Well, it's because it had 40% less stuff in it. Similarly, the inflation numbers are not reporting everything. So of course, the CPI rate's going to be down. So it's just smoke and mirrors. Smoke and mirrors. Gas prices are down a little bit, but not diesel. Diesel prices are actually up year over year. So you guys talk about shipments and you talk about, OTR truckers, they'll tell you diesel prices are up year over year. So this is where we're at. When you have nothing to run on, when you literally have nothing to run on, this is what you have to do. You have to use Truth Social to try to attack the same people that you've been attacking forever, and your base is getting tired of it because you're not delivering the things you said that you said they were going to do. You talk about building a golden fleet of fucking ships that nobody gives a fuck about. Nobody fucking cares. Nobody cares. Nobody gives a shit that we're building battleships other than the people in the defense contract industry. The people that helped Donald Trump get elected. Those are the people that care, and that's who they're doing this favor of. We're going to talk about this reporting from the plans in Gaza that Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner are behind. What they're planning on doing with Gaza, as I fucking told you guys they were going to do. America in the 21st century under the direction of Donald Trump. One of the things he wanted to do, or one of the things that we've all been discussing here, right, is the affordability of housing and how there is a massive housing shortage in our country, which we know has been for a while. Costs are soaring, and a lot of that is because of the Trump administration and traditional Republican politics about deregulating the housing industry so that large companies like BlackRock and Vanguard can come in and buy up these single-family homes and then not resell them, rent them, driving rents up for everybody else. It's a really, really big problem. Again, a program that I really liked in Kamala Harris's economic policy about investment in small family in middle-class homes and communities, using federal land to build low-income or affordable housing, offering first-time home buyers an incentive to be able to get into the market, something that does not exist now. Anybody who owns a home knows that once you get in, as long as you take care of your home, it's going to be an asset. It's going to be an investment. I get contacted literally all the time. My house is, I put a lot of work in my house. It's a nice house. Guess the wood's been taken care of. Hey now, I get asked all the time. I've got some good equity in my home, but where am I supposed to go? I got one more year till my daughter graduates high school. There's no place for me to live. So when the president was asked about the housing crisis, this was his answer.
On housing, you talked in your address last night about housing. Yeah. Are you still considering a national emergency over housing?
I'm looking at it.
What would that look like? What would that look like?
There's two thoughts on housing. You have a lot of people have housing that because we have such a strong time and such a strong market, their houses are very valuable. It's a big part of their net worth, their house. I don't want to knock those numbers down because I want them to continue to have a big value for their house. At the same time, I want to make it possible for young people out there and other people to buy housing. In a way, they're at conflict. In other words, you create a lot of housing all of a sudden and it drives the housing prices down. So I want to take care of the people that have houses that have a value to their house that they never thought possible, that have sort of made them wealthy and happy, and especially in their later years. Got to be careful with that. I want to keep them up. At the same time, I want to make it possible for people to go buy houses. Daniel, please.
What? What? Yeah, Jax. We can always look forward to the 50-year mortgage because that tracks. What? TJ, it's not just about interest rates, my dude. It's about inventory. Okay? We have a housing shortage. And what did the president just say? TJ, statements like that, my guy, are not going to get you back in the throuple. I'm sorry, but that's just, no. That's not a plan. We have a massive housing shortage in our country. It's a massive housing shortage. And the right, of course, they want to try to convince you that it's because of undocumented immigrants. How is that? Let's do the math. Is your claim that undocumented immigrants are not working and they're just leeching off the government and buying up all these houses? How does that work? If they're not working, if the government if they're living off of Medicaid, Medicare, food stamps, and welfare programs, how the fuck are they buying these houses? How? How are they buying these houses? Well, because they are. Well, that doesn't track because, it takes a lot of money to buy a house. So how are they doing? Well, they're doing it because they're doing it. And battleships. That's what it seems like, right? Why? Is there anything that we're ever going to get from this administration that's a benefit to the middle class? Anything? Is there anything that we've gotten from Republican politics over the last, 50 years that's a benefit to the middle class? I was in a live briefly. I forget when it was. It might have been Tuesday night, Wednesday night. I don't even remember. I think it was Tuesday night. Debating Reaganomics, trickle down. And I literally went through the exercise. I said, here's the wealth gap. This is what it was. This is what's happened when tax cuts happened. This is what the tax rates were for corporations and the top marginalized tax rate during the 50s, 60s, and 70s when the middle class was growing. We had the top marginalized rate of 90%. Corporate tax rates were the 50, 60, 70 percentile, right? Middle class was booming. Absolutely. Sure, we had a horrible lot of social disorder at that time, no doubt about it. But we can't deny economically that was a boon for our country. Middle class were being built, suburbs were being built, schools were being built, infrastructures were being built, interstate highway systems were expanding because, shocker, corporations and the wealthy were paying more. Reagan comes along, immediately starts chopping that corporate tax rate down. So we had a corporate tax rate that was above 60% for like 60 years. And in the last 30, it's been chopped down to what is it now? 28%, 21% in some cases. And is it just a coincidence that we've watched the wealth gap increase? Is it just a coincidence? Is it just a coincidence that we've seen a crumbling of infrastructure? Is it just a coincidence that the companies like Walmart and Target, Walmart's the case study, is it just a coincidence that Walmart has training programs for their employees as to how to take advantage of federal subsidies and benefit programs? Is that just a coincidence too? So here we are. There's no solution. There's no housing solution. I was just reading about this. It's a small example, but Kansas City Chiefs. If you're a Patriots fan, you despise the Chiefs, but we won't get into that. They're moving their stadium from Kansas City, Missouri, across the river apparently to Kansas. Right? It's a multi-billion-dollar investment, and the taxpayers are going to have to pay for it. And it doesn't really do much for the community. It's not going to add infrastructure except to support the stadium. And the Hunt family, one of the richest in America, they get tons of advantages from doing it, and they don't have to pay a fucking dime. Like, they don't have to pay a fucking dime. It doesn't do anything for anybody. This is what's happened. The more wealth you have, the more wealth you'll get. That's our system now. I've said this before. Republican economic policies cater to the rich. There's no denying that. To the rich and to corporations, not just in their tax breaks, but in the way in which they protect them. The subsidies that they'll grant, the deregulation, those are all things that benefit people who've got money. Democratic economic policies do tend to favor the middle class and the working poor and unions, but in my opinion, not nearly enough. That's why we need progressives. What kind of country do you want to live in? Do you want to live in the one where families like the Hunt family will just get richer and richer and richer on the backs of taxpayers? Because guess what, MAGA? They're not going to pick you. You're not going to get a ticket to Taylor Swift's box. Let me rephrase. You're not going to get a ticket to the luxury box to which Taylor Swift watches games from. It's not going to happen. You're not going to be able to afford to go to a game. It's not going to happen. You're not going to take your family of 4 to go watch the Chiefs play at their new stadium built by taxpayers. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You've created what we're doing is not only are we punishing taxpayers, but because of media consolidation, there's only going to be a few places where we're even going to be able to consume the NFL. And then most of us are going to have to be making some hardcore decisions about whether or not we still want to support these massive media conglomerates. Learn to grow your own money? Okay. What kind of society do you want? Do you want one where you're chasing after unattainable goals? Diamond-studded parking lots and VIP and everything else? Or do you just want to be able to buy a home, feed your family, get health care? So again, the debate about trickle-down economics doesn't fucking work. It's never worked. People have this fantasy, even when they're talking about it. Yeah, trickle-down economics, so you give the tax breaks to the corporations and to the wealthy, and then they reinvest in their companies. They don't. That's why the wealth gap's there. So when you lay out the data, you can say, listen, CEO salaries have increased by I think the number's like 1,200% since 1985, and the average salary of the workers increased like between 26 and 30%. And most people hear that and they're like, that sucks. I'm like, okay, those are your policies. That's how that's happened. Those are conservative economic policies. That's the Republicans' entire game. If you're not okay with it, then do something about it. Excuse me. Exactly. The stock market is not for you and me. Sure, the 401ks, absolutely, but not everybody has a 401k. Not everyone has it. Not everybody has access to capital. That's what I want. That's what progressives want. We want everybody to have a fair shot. I still believe in hard work. I've busted my ass since I was 13 years old. I've been working. Everybody, gifting has been suspended. I have to appeal that. I don't know why. Maybe it's AI shit. I don't know. Everybody tap like crazy. Appreciate that. For some reason, gifting's been suspended. So in lieu of gifts, feel free to use the Cash App, PayPal, Venmo. Everything is at Factsstillmatter. I appreciate you guys. It doesn't make any sense because the people that suffer the most are the people who need the help the most, right? It makes no sense. And then we have our president that can't explain the housing crisis. They don't have a healthcare solution. They don't have a plan for healthcare. Millions of Americans. Mike Johnson wants you to think it's just between 5 and 7% of the population. No big deal. Nothing to see here. It's fine. Don't worry about it. 25 million Americans. It's a big deal. It's myself and others. It's causing me tremendous anxiety. Tremendous anxiety. Who's got the ability to just throw out an extra $1,000 a month? Seriously. It may not seem like a lot of money to a lot of people, but it's a lot of money to most people. It's a ton of money to most people. It's almost my fucking mortgage payment. That's going to be my increased cost in healthcare. I have no choice. A lot of people have no choice. What are we supposed to do? And we're building fucking battleships? And we're building arcs in DC? Arches? Like the Arch de Triomphe? And people are celebrating that? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And then that leads to this story from the New York Post reported this. Interesting. Enough. $1 proposal to develop Gaza into a smart city with luxury resorts. I fucking told you. Told you what's going to happen. Trump admin reps have just revealed a grandiose $112 billion plan to rebuild war-torn Gaza into a futuristic international destination dubbed Project Sunrise. The 10-year development plan, drafted by first son-in-law Jared Kushner, U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and 2 top White House aides is currently courting investor countries with a 32-slide PowerPoint presentation detailing the bold plan to renovate burning rubble into beach resorts. So there's a map, and there's let's see, there's little cities and AI farms and luxury golf courses and all kinds of shit. All kinds of shit. So we're gonna secure investments to get $112 billion to do that. See, this is a thing. This is a call to leftists, to you non-voters out there, to you people who said, well, I didn't like Kamala Harris's stance on Israel. Your non-vote attributed to this. You didn't care enough about the future of Palestinians to say Donald Trump is just going to line his fucking pockets. And that's exactly what he's doing. There will be Trump branded property there. You can guarantee it. So the United States is securing $112 billion in outside investment from 32 countries. By the way, a lot of those countries had tariffs levied on them as negotiating ploys, right? But that's fine. Totally fine, right? $112 billion would not only cover everybody's ACA subsidies, but we could also replenish SNAP for an entire year. Why don't we get investors who want to invest in things like that? But oh no, they won't do that because that's not profitable. The 10-year development plan drafted by first son-in-law Jared Kushner, Steve Witkoff, 32-slide PowerPoint display. Gaza would see the development of luxury hotels, high-speed rail, and AI-optimized smart grid features that would revolutionize the small slice of the coveted Mediterranean coastline into a bustling metropolis, the Wall Street Journal has reported. Quote, Gaza's destruction has been profound, but we believe what lies ahead is not just restoration, it's a chance to develop a gateway of prosperity in the Middle East with state-of-the-art infrastructure, urban design and technology, the executive summary slide reads. The total $112 billion cost would be spread out over 10 years, with the U.S. agreeing to anchor up to $60 billion in grants and guarantees on debts by raising industry funds. Reimagining Gaza as a smart city with tech-driven governance and services, one slide says. The ambitious proposal, developed within the last 45 days by Kushner, Witkoff, and White House aides, 45 days, by the way, goes back to roughly the time of the alleged ceasefire, which hasn't happened. So that's just a coincidence, right? Sure it is. The ambitious proposal, developed within the last 45 days by Kushner, Witkoff, and White House aides, consulted Israeli security experts about the path moving forward, further called for establishing a chief digital office and an innovation lab to define standards and guide policy making. The presentation does not go into detail about which countries or companies would be involved. Of course it wouldn't, again, according to the Wall Street Journal. Though the plan mapped out distinct phases of construction, it did not provide details for housing the 2 million Palestinians who would be displaced during the massive construction that will be necessary. There was an estimated 68 million tons of rubble in Gaza after thousands of airstrikes leveled cities during the 2-year war. U.S. officials would have knowledge of the proposal, are skeptical that it will come to fruition because a condition would be Hamas agreeing to disarm, the Journal reported. Witkoff, meanwhile, met Saturday in Miami with high-level my appeal didn't get. Looks like gifting has been suspended today, guys, so I don't know what to say about that. But everybody keep tapping. Again, you want to support the channel today? Best way to do that is through Cash App, PayPal, Venmo. Thank you, guys. Witkoff, meanwhile, met Saturday in Miami with high-level delegations from Egypt, from Turkey, from Qatar to discuss implementation for the second phase of the Gaza ceasefire plan. America first, though, right? America first. Everybody happy with that? So $60 billion in loans backed by the U.S., backed by your taxpayer dollars, by the way. What does that do for the 2 million Palestinians? MAGA, are you aware that we fund universal health care for Israel? Are you aware that women in Israel have access to abortion care, reproductive health care, whenever they want it? Are you aware of that? And now we're going to support a new digital luxury state on the Mediterranean with gilded properties once again. You okay with that? You probably are. Because as long as Trump's name's on it, you'll find some way to support it. You think your vote doesn't matter? Really? You think your vote doesn't matter? I will remind people once again about Do Something. The live we did on, what day was that? What's today? Friday. On Wednesday. It's up on my YouTube. You can find it. You can check it out. We talked about all kinds of things that we can all do when it comes to Do Something. I hope this will serve as a reminder of why it's important to vote. $112 billion after 2 million Palestinians were targeted by the Israeli government to do exactly this. I believe that Israel had a right to defend itself after October 7th, no doubt about it. Within a few days, 2 or 3 days after that, sure. But since then, nope. And the conspiracy theorists will tell you that this was all part of the plan, that it was done intentionally at the direction of Bibi. Everybody keep tapping F1 in the chat, please. This is my own opinion. This is a complicated topic, so I don't want to make sure that we can keep the live up. That's my opinion, and my opinion alone. Some people claim that this was intentional, that it was coordinated by the Israeli government in hopes that they would get exactly what they're getting now, which is this massive investment in Gaza, Mediterranean coastline, beachfront property, so that the billionaire class can make even more money at the expense of human rights, civilian lives, the lives of women and children, etc. Nice. America first, right? America first. Bibi in the cabinet room telling Donald Trump that he should get the Nobel Peace Prize. Okay. That's fine. Speaking of that, I want to play a little, there's an interview that this gentleman did with, I really like Mehdi Hassan. He's part of a new news network called Zateo. I am not sponsored by them. I'm not affiliated with them. I would love to be. So if you're watching, Mehdi, I'm Steve. Facts go live every Monday through Friday, 8 till noon Eastern time. You can find me right here. I like the way in which he talks about it, because what he's seen and what he's been witnessing, or what he's witnessed over there, is obviously there's no ceasefire. Let me see if I can find that sound. Hang on one second. Everybody keep tapping and sharing, please. And we're going to talk about Jack Smith a little bit this morning, because Jack's like, oh, okay, you guys are the ones that wanted me to sit down. So then why can't you just release the transcript of what I said? No, that would be too easy. Okay, here we go. You're going to hear from, this is an American volunteer surgeon in Gaza. His name is Irfan Galaria. This is what he's been seeing because he's been on the ground. Now, take it for what it's worth. I listened to the interview. This is one person's opinion, but these are like Doctors Without Borders people. You know, they're not politically affiliated. They're just there trying to do the work. So this is what he had to say.
In January of 2024, you penned a very powerful op-ed in the LA Times about your trip. You wrote at the time that what you saw was not war, it was annihilation. Now, you've just returned from a second trip in November. What did you see this time around? Has the quote-unquote ceasefire stopped the annihilation?
Mehdi, I did not see a ceasefire. On the first day when I was there, I talked to one of the local plastic surgeons, and I had asked him quite naively, said, has things changed? Or are things still very difficult in the ceasefire? And he said to me, he goes, Irfan, things are not difficult, they're impossible. Although the frequency of attacks have decreased, the attacks have continued regularly. I heard bombs, I heard gunfire. I cared for patients with new shrapnel injuries, new gunshot wounds every day. As a matter of fact, in the last couple of days that I was there, November 18th or 19th, the intensity of the attacks actually were increasing. So the The fires, the gunfire was continuing. You know, one of the other local doctors had mentioned to me, he said, you know, Irfan, we've been bombed into the Stone Ages. And I think that's also important to keep into perspective where the Palestinian people are. So even if the ceasefire has actually taken place, even if there is a return to, quote, normalcy, these people are still suffering. They have no electricity. They're living in tents. They don't have access to water. I saw them. They're actually going to vehicles collecting drinking water from these vehicles.
And they're now getting hit by storms as well.
Correct.
So this supposed ceasefire was supposed to see a surge of aid, was the phrase that Western politicians use. That was what was going to happen once the fighting stopped. That hasn't happened. The UN reported over 100 rejected aid requests in the first month after the ceasefire for blankets, winter clothes, sanitation supplies, things that I'm sure will harm Israeli soldiers. That's kind of nonsense they say. What about medical supplies? Are they getting in? I remember talking to you and other doctors who've been into Gaza since October 2023, and they told me many times that you weren't allowed to take things in your suitcase. Things were getting stopped. Did that happen this time?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's restrictions as even though some doctors are allowed entry, we're only allowed to take personal items. So we're essentially handcuffed, right? We're allowed to go into Gaza, but we don't have the equipment to actually perform the surgeries and to help the patients as we need to. For example, in some hospitals, the orthopedic surgeons were saying they didn't have the tools to basically fix bones. A lot of the places, they didn't have x-ray machines to be able to imagine them. Yeah, so
I remember Dr. Mark Perlmutter telling me about having to leave a drill bit inside a child's arm.
Yes.
Just horrific.
But nothing to see here, right? It's totally fine. Taxpayer dollars going to support a G-side at the hands of the Israeli government. 2 million Palestinians displaced, kicked from their homes. Innocent civilians, women and children, targeted to do what? To pave it over. Anybody ever do any gardening? You know how you prep the ground for the new plant? That's what it seems like. I'm going to bulldoze it. I'm going to clear it, going to level it, and they're going to rebuild with luxury hotels and golf courses. Do you think that the 2 million Palestinians are going to be welcomed back? Hell no. Maybe some will, but they'll be workers. I think about I've mentioned to you guys I've been to Jamaica numerous times, and on 7 Mile Beach, this is a bit of a comparison, to be honest. Economic comparison only. 7 Mile Beach is this beautiful, one of the most amazing places on earth, and I still have my friend Henry. I've talked to you guys about him. His family was devastated because of the hurricanes, and things are doing well. I sent him some money, and things are going okay for them. Anyway, if you look at 7 Mile Beach, you start at the west end, which is the western tip, almost the southern end. If you look at the map, and the prices of the places you can stay gradually tick up as you go up the beach to the very eastern end, or the northern end, I guess you could say. You're going to get like the hedonisms, you're going to get the Club Meds, you're going to get the sandals, you're going to get the most expensive properties, some of the most prestigious brands there are in the world. The people who work at those resorts, they have the uniforms. First of all, Jamaicans are some of the most incredibly kind, generous, selfless, amazing people I have ever met in my life. And these amazing folks literally have nothing. They have nothing. They work at these resorts. They don't live on the resort property. They live in these little towns if they're lucky. Some of them don't even have walls on their houses. They're there, Midea. They are there to support the people who can afford to vacation there. So what do we have now? We've got this G-side in Gaza. And the United States of America is directly involved. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. So here we sit. Millions of displaced lives. For what reason? For what reason? So that the rich can enrich themselves even more. We're not going to get picked. We're not going to be included. This is what MAGA voted for. And this is what people who didn't vote got. You're just as much to blame. You are just as much to blame. Do you really think things would be the same if Kamala Harris had won the presidency when it comes to Israel, Gaza? Do you really think so? Then I was thinking about this in the next primary cycle. Is there going to be a candidate either on the Republican side or the Democratic side that's going to stand up and say, no more. We're not funding Israel to do this shit anymore. No more. Because I think the overwhelming sentiment from most Americans feel that way now. This is not disparaging the Israeli people because they're victims of it as well. But the IDF and the Bibi Netanyahu government, they're fucking war crimes. This is G-side. So is there anybody that's going to take a stand? I mean, you're talking about, you got people like Candace Owens, you got people like Matt Gaetz, people like Tucker even are saying, like, what the fuck is going on? And are you just finally waking up to this shit? See, in the rhetoric connected to the Muslim population, right, is that in many minds of MAGA voters, they deserve it because they don't care about human life in general. But they never thought this through. They never thought it through. All they saw was the bloodthirsty, the love of pain and suffering. That's all they saw. They would get off when Fox News would cover the IDF blowing up the building, lying to them about whether or not it was an H group headquarter. That's what this has become. They never thought it through. I told you guys when this started a long time ago, not that I'm patting myself in the back, but I told you it was exactly what's going to happen. They're going to level Gaza. It's going to turn into investment property led by Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff and Donald Trump. And lo and behold, here we are. Wasn't easy. I'm not some prognosticator. It wasn't easy to figure that out. Billions and billions of dollars secured on behalf of the United States government to turn it into a Mediterranean paradise. Nice. Nothing to see here though, right, MAGA? Nothing to see. Nothing to see. Instead, most of you, a lot of you who are selfish, who may be in the top, the 5% or the 10%ers who only care about your own wealth, your own 401k, are going to say, hey, just more investment opportunities for me. Of course you'd say that. And that is true. That is certainly true. Follow the fucking money. See, the thing is that people who have money can make more money. People who don't have money are going to get even worse off. I live comfortably. I don't have much. I don't need much. I'm pretty simple. In fact, my kids got me some art to hang on the walls. They're like, Dad, your walls look bare. Here's some pictures. I'm like, okay, cool, thanks. I don't think about that shit because I think about feeding my family. I think about paying my bills, keeping my business going, helping out friends and neighbors when I can, and just trying to survive. And that's what most Americans think about. I don't think about the next big purchase I'm going to make. Listen, I freak out when I go buy a pair of socks. I've always been like that. That's just me. I don't expect others to feel the same way. But people think about things so differently than most Americans. You will see this as like, wow, I can enrich myself. I'm going to get in early. It's probably going to be IPOs here and there. I'm going to get in early on the investment opportunity. I'm going to make bank. If that's the way that you want to live your life, pave over people's homes, generations of families, bodies in the ground under the pavement of a brand new shiny hotel, and you're fine with that, right? Nothing to see here. You figure once it's paved over and once the glass mausoleums and the pyramids and the structures and the gold embossed buildings are up and erected, you won't have to worry about what's under it. You won't think back on what happened. You won't look at the pictures. You won't hear from the doctors. You won't hear about the absolute the human tragedy in the G-side that is at the hands of the Israeli government funded by our taxpayer dollars. And I will remind you, MAGA, your taxpayer dollars are paying to support universal health care in Israel and women's rights to abortion. Most of you probably don't know that. Defend it. You can't. But nothing to see here. It just makes me so angry. It should make you angry too. You heard it. You heard it from doctors. Do we not want to believe them now? Can we not trust doctors who are on the ground taking care of people? See, for those of us on the left, in general, we care about human suffering. We don't want to see it. I don't want to see human suffering. I don't. Our approaches to how these conflicts end are extremely different. It seems like people on the right just want to use as much firepower and booming and everything else to end it through violence and force. I don't see it that way. I don't see it that way. I don't want to see it that way. I can't see it that way. I don't want human suffering. What Bibi Netanyahu has done and what Vladimir Putin has done, and in many cases with the full backing and support of our president, is criminal. Is absolutely criminal. And the right has co-opted this America First bullshit. None of that is America First. None of it. None of it is. Unaliving, Muslims in Nigeria. Now, we can talk about the crimes they're committing, but again, that's not America First. Using the United States Navy to seize ships, it's not about oil. It's just about punishing Venezuela so that they can't sell their own oil to other countries. That's not America First. Taking Greenland? Is that America First? Nope. But for some reason, you bought it. Just like you're buying everything with the Jeffrey Files. Again, I don't watch the Necessary Conversation podcast anymore, but it is so bad right now. I just watched some of the highlights last night. So bad of what they think. They think it's all made up. They think there's nothing in there. There's no possible way that Donald Trump can be connected to any of this. And that's all part of the messaging. That's all part of this world that we live in now, that right-wing messaging, propaganda, disinformation, and misinformation is dominating. You see it in our space. The right is loaded with a bunch of fucking grifters. Loaded with grifters. And I'm going to be accused of that. Fine, whatever. You don't want to support the channel? You don't have to support the channel. I don't care. I don't care. I love the support. I appreciate it. I never expect it, but I always appreciate it. But there literally are people out here that have literally decided, you know what? I can make a lot of money off of simple-minded right-wing people by just aligning on some of their beliefs. It's true. You guys know how I stand on things. That's it. But I can say a lot about me, but I can say hopefully you'll say one thing, that I've been consistent. That's the goal. I know you are, Dano, and I appreciate that. I didn't say it for that reason. I'm just saying there's a fundamental difference between what people are trying to talk about and spread information as opposed to people that are literally. It's funny because I've mentioned this before. There's a group of a bunch of creators. We have a little group chat on TikTok. It's called MAGA Hunting, where we share other lives. And if somebody's free, they might jump in. I stitched a video yesterday from this right-wing creator. This person was live last night. I'm not going to give their name because I don't want them to get any cred. I certainly don't want them to use my platform as a springboard to get more audience. But I stitched a video that she said, because she said in her video, and I shit you not, you can find that on my page. She said that the 13, 14, 15, and 16-year-old survivors knew exactly what they were doing. Yeah. Knew exactly what they were doing. And then she hosts lives as well. I'm not going to go in there. I'm not going to request help on their panel. Why should we? Why should we? So, friends, if you see that and you see people like that, don't give them your time. That's what they want. Don't give them your energy. That's what they want. They want you to come in there. They want you to be angry. They want the algorithm to fire up. They want people to engage. It's what they want. It's absolutely rage bait. It's exactly what it is. Don't take it. Don't take it. That's where the grift comes from. These people are not America First. These people do not care about anything other than themselves. They have found a way in their empty, hollow, selfish lives to get some attention. It's funny. Hold on a second. And here's another one. Look, here's another one. So triggered. Can you imagine all the things in the world that we have to worry about now? And this person spends energy on that? See, we see you. You see, Burkhard, it's more, you think that this is a reflection on me. It's actually a reflection on you. It's pretty sad. It's pretty sad that you are so insecure in yourself and you are so triggered by something that you don't like that you do this with a laughy face emojis. It's more about you than it's about me. Maybe try standing for something once in a while. Maybe try, I don't know, saying I might like healthcare, or it sucks that kids and kids are starving in schools. Yeah, they're starving. You're the same people that probably say, you know what, we shouldn't be giving kids free school lunches and free school breakfast. But that guy I saw on TikTok who painted his nails, that's a real problem. So many people are just so broken because of this guy. The worst possible human qualities have been brought to the forefront. So bad that people are just celebrating human suffering. I'll never understand it. Thank goodness. I don't want to understand it. Thank goodness. But we're going to talk about it. Okay. Before we get into some more of how I want to talk about the JE files, there's interesting reporting from Jack Smith's team, because you recall that Jack Smith, rather red nails and a red hat. Good call. Jack Smith was called to testify behind closed doors by Republicans on the Judiciary Committee. Okay. So he's like, I would rather do this in person. And they're like, no. So he goes. There's reporting. Some of the Democrats on the committee said, listen, we've got Jack Smith, as reported by Jack Smith and his team, said we had overwhelming evidence that it was beyond a reasonable doubt that the president would have been found guilty of his crimes against the country, J6 specifically, the conspiracy plot to overthrow the government, and the Mar-a-Lago documents case. So Jack Smith's like, release everything. So this is the reporting. This is from the AP. Former special counsel Jack Smith wants the recordings of his full depositions to a House panel released. Okay. You called him to testify. You called him. Case wasn't dropped. Okay, let's address this. I'll talk about this. The case was not dropped, okay? The case, because the DOJ has rules that you can't charge and try a sitting president. The president won the election. Therefore, the case was dismissed. The charges were not dropped. Okay? I forget what the technical terms are. That's our system. Okay? That's our system, right? The question I would have for you, if the president did nothing wrong, then why would he just want to stand trial? Why would he use every possible delay tactic in the book? You see, your argument falls flat on its face. And here's another example about what I'm about to say. His attorney sent a letter December the 18th to House Judiciary Committee Chair Jim Jordan requesting that his closed-door deposition be made public. So MAGA, if there's nothing to hide here, he's already testified. He's gone in front of a closed-door committee on the judiciary chaired by Jim Jordan. If you wanted to hear his testimony, then why can't the deposition be public? What are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? You got what you wanted. He testified. He said he would testify in public. You said you guys are too afraid of that, so you said no. Okay, you've got my testimony. You've got the transcript. Just release it. Mr. Smith respectfully requests the prompt public release of the full videotape of his deposition. Doing so will ensure that the American people can hear the facts directly from Mr. Smith rather than through the secondhand accounts, wrote Larry A. Brewer and Peter Koski, Smith's lawyers. Quote, we also reiterate, did I miss something? Hang on one second. Nope, I'm good. We also reiterate that our request for an open and public hearing during the investigation of President Trump, Mr. Smith steadfastly followed Justice Department policies, observed all legal requirements, and took actions based on the facts and the law. he stands by his decisions. In the deposition, Smith defended his decision to bring charges against the then former President Trump for attempting to overturn the 2020 election. Our investigation, quote, our investigation developed proof beyond a reasonable doubt that President Trump engaged in a criminal scheme to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election and to prevent the lawful transfer of power, Smith said in prepared opening remarks, portions of which were obtained by The Hill. Quote, our investigation also developed powerful evidence that showed President Trump willfully retained highly classified documents after he left office in January 2021, storing them at his social club, including in a bathroom and a ballroom where events and gatherings took place. He then repeatedly tried to obstruct justice to conceal his continued retention of those documents, he added. Smith said he'd do it all again if presented with the same facts during his testimony, which lasted more than 9 hours. Rep. Dan Goldman from New York advocated for the release in a post on Wednesday. I was there. There's no reason not to release the video and the transcript, he said in reply to CBS News reporters' post about the letter. If Jim Jordan refused Jack Smith's request for a public hearing, like every other special counsel, because he allegedly wanted to avoid the 5-minute rule, he got that. Rep. Kevin Kiley of California, a Republican, told The Hill on the day of Smith's testimony that he wouldn't oppose the public testimony either. Quote, I do think that we're dealing with unprecedented events here, so it's entirely appropriate. And I think people on both sides, maybe for different reasons, think that what happened here bears scrutiny. Jordan said last week he had ruled out public testimony. So again, MAGA, what are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? If you felt like Jack Smith could be dragged across the coals by your Republican representatives, then bring him in front of a committee. Televise the whole thing. Why not? You brought in your own witnesses for Hunter Biden and that shit blew up in your fucking face. You thought Devin Archer was going to be the smoking gun and he destroyed your entire fucking case. So you bring those people in, but you won't bring Jack Smith in? Jack Smith was one of the people the president called a traitor. Said should be investigated. Should be indicted for crimes. This is what you want then, right? Expose him publicly. Bringing him in front of the American people. Let him sit there and answer questions. But no, you can't do that, can you? If you don't believe that Jack Smith said, I've got irrefutable evidence here, that we would have, beyond a reasonable doubt that he'd be found guilty. If you don't think that's true, then what are you afraid of? You see, we got you. You're caught. You're busted. Your entire game, the gig is up. That's it. You're not willing to admit it. We're here to provide context. I think that story is just interesting. We'll continue to watch it. Okay. Briefly, I want to go back and just visit. I don't want this story to be forgotten. The drone strikes versus the boat strikes. People on the right now are trying to use the Obama drone strikes as justification for what Pete Hegseth did in the Caribbean. There are no similarities. None. Objectively speaking, there are none. So I found this UCMJ attorney. I forget this gentleman's name. He'll talk about it in just a second, but he's a former JAG attorney. It's what he does. And I like his content because he really tries to break this down. So I'm going to play this sound for you, and then we'll talk about it.
The Obama-era drone strikes. Well, legally, this comparison doesn't work, and here's the difference. Hey, I'm Cody Harnish, UCMJ attorney. I'm a former JAG, prior Cav Scout, and now I only practice military.
Handsome man, too. You can check out his videos.
Law. Those past strikes were justified, right or wrong, under a war framework. After 9/11, Congress passed an AUMF. That stands for Authorized Use of Military Force. The government claimed it was engaged in an armed conflict with Al-Qaeda and associated forces. And this gave the president the legal authority to then use the military against those forces. Under the Constitution, it is Congress that declares war, raises armies, and controls funding, while it is the president that acts as the commander-in-chief, directing the military after a declaration of war or a congressional authorization. That matters because the law of war is very different than criminal law. In war, you can target enemy combatants based on status, not just about what they're doing in the moment. You don't need an arrest warrant. You don't need a trial first, and that is the harsh reality of armed conflict. And that is the legal authority used for the Obama-era drone strikes. Now, people can and they should debate about whether those past drone strikes went too far.
Agreed. Absolutely. I think we should absolutely have that conversation as to whether or not they went too far. Absolutely. I am not here defending it, but there is a clear difference between these two things. Under the AUMF during the Biden administration, that was for the Obama administration, authorization was granted. We could absolutely have that objective conversation about the fundamental differences between these things. I don't like that the president can use powers like that, but they're not the same. Not samesies, as my daughter used to say.
But legally, the government at least claimed a recognized armed conflict and had an AUMF for it. But here with these boat strikes, this is not the case, and what's happening here is entirely different. This isn't a war. There's no enemy armed force. There's no battlefield. And most importantly, there's no AUMF, no congressional authorized use of military force. This is the president taking wartime kill authority and using it against suspected criminals. Drug trafficking is a criminal enterprise, not a war, no matter how serious of a crime it is.
Correct.
So comparing the Obama-era strikes to these boat strikes isn't just wrong, it's dangerous because it normalizes the idea that a president can kill people without Congress, without courts, without accountability. That's not law enforcement, that's not war, that is raw, unchecked power, and that's what our Constitution was specifically written to prevent. Like, share, comment, follow for more information on military law. And in the meantime, I'm going to be right here.
It's on X. It's UCMJ Attorney is this person's handle. UCMJ Attorney on X. Okay. I don't know if there's a clearer explanation. Again, let's be objective. I don't like the fact that the president has authority under the Authorized Use of Military Force Act without Congress necessarily having to approve everything, right? But you cannot compare. You cannot compare the two. They're not even in the same ballpark because drug trafficking under international law is a criminal enterprise. Now, the Hegseth and Caroline Leavitt and anybody else, they can say whatever the fuck they want. They're going to, and their mouth breathing potatoes on the right will accept it because they're bloodthirsty as well. Because they're the ones that want to paint the fucking battleship with their fucking spunk. Sorry, that's a little graphic. They would though. They would totally do that. You cannot compare the two. I am not defending drone strikes. Let's make this very, very fucking clear. I'm not defending them, but they are not even in the same ballpark. What the president did under his direction as commander-in-chief to Pete Kegsbreath, secretary of assistant manager to the assistant manager of war crimes and criminality, is criminal. It's schmurder. That's what it is. So now they're saber rattling by rallying the military, the Navy off the coast of Venezuela, and now they're using strikes in Nigeria, and now they want to talk about the Golden Fleet, all to distract. I don't even think it's a war crime because we weren't technically at war. It's schmurder. Let's call it what it is. So again, not even in the same ballpark. UCMJ Attorney. Okay? Strikes in Syria also. Similarly. And as a reminder, glad you brought that up. As a reminder, the Syrian president was in the Oval Office on Veterans Day. The Syrian president, who was a former ISIS commander, who was part of plots to decapitate American military. That guy is the president of Syria now. That guy was in the Oval Office joking with our president about how many wives he had. That guy. In his country, American military members were unalived. That guy was in the Oval Office on Veterans Day joking with our president. Y'all okay with that, MAGA? You guys okay with that, you patriots? Right? You fucking patriots? You're all right with that? You POW MIA flag flyers? You okay with that? I stand with our troops. You know, you salute on Veterans Day or on your 4th of July parades when the military marches by. You don't give a fuck about any of them. You don't give a fuck about any of them. You will just try to use it. You'll wrap yourself in your American flag. You don't give a fuck about it. You don't give a fuck about it. People on the left are far more patriotic than you are because we believe in the American spirit. We don't have to hide behind our fake patriotism. You're fine with a former ISIS commander in Iraq who was responsible for campaigns to decapitate American civilians, American military members. That guy is now the president of Syria. That guy was in the Oval Office. But you're totally okay with that, aren't you? Of course you are. What Pete Kegsbreath and the United States military did at the direction of the president in the Caribbean was schmurder. Period. My opinion alone, I'll stand by it. But you know what? What's interesting is that statements like that I just made, I could be arrested, according to our Attorney General. Because one of the executive orders that came out on January the 20th was restoring freedom of speech and ending federal censorship. A memo from Attorney General Pam Bondi said agencies and or individuals may merit a federal investigation if they promote anti-Americanism. Okay, let's see. I think the government currently are fucking traitors. Okay, anti-capitalism. Capitalism is fucking criminal. I believe in democratic socialism because I think everybody will be better off. Anti-Christianity. I have no issues with someone's faith. What I can't stand are fake fucking Christians and Christian nationalists. So fuck them. Opposition to law and immigration enforcement. Fuck ICE. They're a bunch of Gestapo fucking thugs. Pussy-ass bitch cowards who have to mask themselves to separate families. Fuck them. Radical gender ideology. I believe you should be able to love who you love, be who you are, and I'll stand 10 toes down with anybody who wants to see the same, be the same, and speak the same. I support them because I love them. Hostility towards traditional views on family, religion, and morality. Morality? Fuck all you and your fucking fake morality. Are you fucking kidding me? You are despicable, malevolent, cruel individuals. Fuck all of you. So Pam, with that being said, I'm Steve. Factsstillmatter. I go live every Monday through Friday, 8 to noon Eastern time. Fuck you. Knock on my door. Go ahead. I don't give a fuck. Fuck you. Give me a fucking break. Again, I could be investigated for anti-Americanism. Okay. Anti-capitalism. Okay. Anti-Christianity. Fine. Opposition to law and immigration enforcement. Totally fine. Radical gender ideology. Absolutely. Hostility towards traditional views on family, religion, and morality. Absolutely. That's American. By me standing up to that bullshit, that makes me much more patriotic than you motherfuckers. Much more patriotic. You don't want opposition. You want for us what you want for yourself. You like being told what to do. You like being told who to love. You want to be told who to marry. You want to be told what to believe. I believe in freedom. Good or bad. I believe in people's rights to think, be, live, and stand for who they are. Fuck all you all fucking traitors. You don't like it? You can leave. Seriously. I see you little pussy ass bitches in here complaining, not brave enough to have a conversation. All you want to do is just live in your blanket of hatred. That's it. Live under your blanket of hate. You're malevolent and cruel. And we see it I've never seen anything like it. The celebration of human suffering. Literally, the celebration of human suffering. That's what this comes down to. There were people that were hosting lives yesterday. Christians. The day of Jesus' birth. Just saying horrific things about people. That's fine though, right? Nothing to see here? Okay. Whatever. All right. Let me see where I'm at here on some things I wanted to cover. Then we're going to get into how I wanted to break down this coverage that I talked to you guys about. I talked about this before. I'm going to play this sound from Matt Gaetz. I don't like to platform him, but I think this is kind of interesting in the way in which he talks about this, because this is a little bit about what we were just discussing earlier when it comes to Israel.
And it was an opt to silence me, and Israel was involved. And I hate to say that. I was shocked to learn it, but there was a consulate official.
Okay, this is amazing. So this is the charge that you were like trafficking underage girls.
Absurd. And
I don't even know what the charge was, but that was the headline. Matt Gaetz traffics underage women. It's like, oh my gosh, can't talk to Matt Gaetz anymore.
Well, for us,
he did that.
The shocking moment was when my father, who's a prominent person in our community, got outreach from someone he had never met that said that there were pictures and images of me with underage prostitutes, and my dad needed to meet with these people right away. And so my dad, somewhat surprised and concerned, goes and talks to these people and says, what in the world are you talking about? And they said, well, Mr. Gaetz, we need $25 million from you to go and rescue a spy that is being held in Iran. And if you do that, we can make these things about your son go away. Which was crazy and wild. We did what any reasonable people would do. We went to the FBI and said that we were being extorted by these folks with their false claims. And we later learned that this consulate official working for the Israeli government was sending text messages to Scott Adams, of all people, the Dilbert cartoonist, saying they were expecting my father to furnish this $25 million payment, and that would be evidence of my consciousness of guilt.
For the American FBI agent grabbed on an Iranian island maybe 18 or 19 years ago.
And I don't know anything about this person. I don't know if the person's dead or alive, but it was troubling and concerning to me that someone who was getting paid by the Israeli government was involved in a criminal shakedown of a U.S. congressman.
Again, I'm certainly not defending Matt Gaetz. He is certainly a predator, no doubt about it. But I think it talks about some of the things we were discussing before about how deep this corruption goes and how much power the Israeli government has. How deep Mossad is, the Israeli intelligence agency is, infiltrated in our government across all networks, right? So I am certainly not going to say I agree with Matt Gaetz and or Tucker here, but they've been talking about it a lot more, right? And where there's smoke, even in MAGA, where there's smoke, there's usually some fire. So there's that. Okay. I want to get into how we're going to cover this story, because I'm going to do some. So I think Snopes did a really good job of doing their fact checking. But I'm going to play the fundamental differences in how the media is covering this particular story. I'm going to first start with a report from the Washington Examiner. Now, the Washington Examiner is a far right publication, but so when I read you this story, you're going to hear a lot of the same bullshit rhetoric. But it's interesting because they're pointing something out that I think is really, really important. So the headline is, Trump owns the moral high ground on schmugs and borders, but his communications team is setting it on fire. So this is a pro-Trump publication, the Washington Examiner, very right-wing. So you're going to hear a lot of the rhetoric. It's written by Peter Laffin, Laffin. So I'm going to read it to you. Again, this is their words, not mine. Ordinary people whose communities have been ravaged by deadly schmugs imported from Latin America see American missiles sinking ships carrying thousands of pounds of narcotics and think it's about damn time. The logic at work here is so clear that only an overeducated elite could miss it. An invading force approaches our shores carrying deadly schmugs destined for our streets, and in response, the military obliterates them. You know, traditional right-wing talking points, right? I can't believe you guys don't want drugs on our shores. Of course, that's not what we think, but this is part of the spin, right? And now these same elites accuse Trump of circumventing the War Powers Resolution and War Secretary Pete Hegseth of being, quote, a war criminal based on the false report that he ordered a double tap strike that killed shipwreck survivors. Again, we know what that person just wrote about is untrue, because we do know that a double tap strike was ordered. We do know that there were shipwrecked individuals floating in the water. We've talked about all that, okay? But here too, voters are more discerning than the elite class gives them credit for. They remember all the military actions of the past century that came without a formal declaration of war, including Barack Obama's liberal use of unauthorized drone strikes. That's why I played the sound for you earlier, because again, a massive difference between the two. The right is trying to say they're the exact same thing. Okay? They're the exact same thing. That's what the right wants to tell you. If you guys didn't care when Obama did it, well, what Obama did, we're not justifying what he did, but they're not even the same thing. Not even close to the same things. Okay? They remember all the military actions of the past century that came without a formal declaration of war, including Barack Obama's liberal use of unauthorized drone strikes. And while some may have frowned at the false reports of Hegseth's alleged double tap order, no one believes that this would be the worst thing our military has done in modern times. Excuse me. No one believes that this would be the worst thing our military has done in modern times and therefore worthy of a public tribunal. Again, attempted justification. But the public support here hinges on a few key guardrails. Above all, voters want the Trump administration to offer clear evidence that these boats are indeed carrying schmugs and to adhere to the established rules of military engagement. However, on the general principle of defending our shores, Americans remain supportive of the president just as they do on securing the southern border and deporting illegal immigrants. They grasp the clear logic of self-defense at work and reject the elite hysteria for the opportunistic politicking that it is. Torching the moral high ground. When it comes to removing the most dangerous illegal immigrants, the Trump administration is doing work that genuinely saves lives. Here's the right-wing spin, okay? Again, what I'm reading to you is authored by Peter Laffin from the Washington Examiner. Washington Examiner's far right, bordering on conspiracy, pseudoscience, a bunch of failed fact checks, not a reputable source. I'm reading this to you because this is what we fight against on the media. But there's some nuance here, and I'll get to it in just a second. So torching the moral high ground. When it comes to removing the most dangerous illegal immigrants, the Trump administration is doing the work that generally saves lives. The DHS has done phenomenal work in 2025. A quick glance through the list of vicious criminal illegal aliens captured this year confirms that the American communities are far safer than they were in 2024. You notice, again, typical right-wing stuff, no evidence. They just put words down on paper, and because their voters are so bloodthirsty, they won't look past the headline, okay? Thousands of the worst, Tren de Aragua members, child predators, we know how they feel about them, and schmurderers have been taken off the street, all thanks to the tireless dedication of ICE and CBP officers. Operations such as Operation Dirtbag in Florida led to the arrest of more than 150 illegal alien schmex offenders. These aren't mere statistics. They are children-protected, communities secured. But instead of deploying a highly effective and authoritarian messaging campaign trumpeting these unassailable victories, the DHS's communication team is making cringy memes and picking fights with pop stars. Similarly, Hegseth has cheapened the grave and solemn business of firing American missiles at human beings through the impulsive tweeting. The War Secretary has, of course, dealt with the false smear that he ordered the schmill everyone, so his lack of patience is understandable. But that doesn't excuse him playing directly into the elite caricature of him as a hothead and a neophyte. It's not too late for these childish elements of the administration to grow up, nor is it too late to retain the nation's hearts and minds on the logic of self-defense in the long term. But the hour is quickly approaching when public opinion will sour on common sense self-defense. And when it happens, it will be because the public no longer trusts the Trump administration to take itself or the mission seriously. The Washington Examiner, you're not going to find a publication that's more pro-Trump than that one. They're calling it like it is. Of course, they're going to sprinkle in their rhetoric. They're going to sprinkle in their lies. They're going to sprinkle in their misdirections and their untruths. The hour is quickly approaching when public opinion will sour on common self-defense. And when it happens, it will be because the public no longer trusts the Trump administration to take itself or the mission seriously. Yeah.
Smart people don't like me.
I thought that was really telling, to be honest. I think that is a really, oftentimes, no, I go to right-wing spaces, you don't have to, you're welcome, but I also look at right-wing media because I need to know what they're talking about and how they're talking about it. And as I've said to you many, many times, you guys, I have an advantage growing up in media, been trained in media. I train my clients in media. So there's things that I look for. And when you have a trained eye, I can read that story to you and be like, okay, if you are a follower or a subscriber to the Washington Examiner, you will jump on the headlines. Our streets are safer, this and that, but they don't ever tell you what's next. They don't fill in the blanks. The fact that our streets would be safer if we had a community of immigrants. Our streets would be safer if we arrested more white men. Those are the facts. They don't want to talk about that. They certainly don't want to talk about the 60 Minutes story. Or they don't want to talk about how Kristi Noem has fucking lied. Lied about not arresting an American veteran. Got the gifting was suspended again. Great. Okay, cool. So that's why we have these conversations here, because I don't know, and I think our mainstream media does a disservice. Now, there are a few really, really good journalists out there that are doing the work. One of them in particular is Jonathan Karl. Jonathan Karl works for ABC, and he's really in the ear of the president. The president does not like him at all, but he had Kristi Noem on. This is a few weeks back, and I wanted to play this out again because I don't want it to be forgotten. This goes back to the unfortunate incident when a National Guard member was unalived in D.C. You guys know the story. So this is Kristi Noem trying to navigate through this, and Jonathan Karl is one of the few journalists that push back, because if she were just left with her own devices, she would have just deflected away from the obvious, that the person who did that was granted asylum under the Trump administration. I want you to hear her spin and how he pushes back. Hold on.
Radicalized here in the United States. He was admitted to this country by the Biden administration. That's 100% correct, 2021. But he was granted asylum by the Trump administration in April. So did you see any red flags?
If you remember, John.
Yeah, did you see any red flags?
John, all the information that was gathered on that vetting process was gathered under the Biden administration. His asylum claim application started under the Biden administration. That information was provided by them, and the responsibility lies with them. And we need to know that and speak the truth of how this entire process happened so that we can fix it. That's what President Trump has been doing and dedicated to, is that when we look at people who deserve asylum, they have to be thoroughly vetted. They weren't under the last administration. That has completely changed under President Trump.
But again, he was granted asylum in April. So President Trump had already been in office for several months. You had been in office. Are you saying there was no vetting done by the Trump administration? You were simply relying on what had been done under the Biden administration? You did no vetting before granting him asylum?
The process is put in.
Just think about this, friends. Okay, MAGA, this is for you guys. Yes, facts, right? The asylum process initiated again allowed into the country under the Biden administration. As a person's from Afghanistan, we know the situation happened there. We know that this was part of the, respect to the people who supported us in the streets in Afghanistan, right? Translators and the like. This person's asylum was approved during the Trump administration. What Kristi Noem is trying to do here ain't working.
Were put in place using information that was gathered during the application process that happened under Joe Biden. And that has been completely fixed. And new metrics and new processes have been added under President Trump. He immediately went to work, and we put in place under USCIS the new data and new information that can be gathered, such as, communicating with governments, getting information from them, and making sure that biometric information and dates of service match up. Much of the information that was gathered and provided by the Biden administration wasn't thorough and wasn't done. And what kind of a crazy world is it when you have a president that allows millions of people to come into this country unvetted, not knowing who they are, from countries that perpetuate terrorism upon the United States? And when we saw during Operation Allies Welcome was over close to 100,000 people that were allowed to come to the United States, that Joe Biden said, you know what, we'll vet them after they get here. We'll let them into our country, and then we'll vet them after they get here. And then they didn't do it. They didn't do a good job, and it wasn't complete and thorough, and that's what is being fixed right now.
Again, what the Biden administration said actually is that the vetting was done before they came to the United States.
Again, how do you spin this? Okay. Maybe you put a lasagna in at 9 o'clock, or not 9 o'clock in the morning. You're going to be gone. You put the lasagna in the oven. You give clear instructions that you can't take the lasagna out until it's done, but make sure you take the lasagna out at 2. Okay? The person who's responsible to take the lasagna out at 2 doesn't take the lasagna out at 2 and the house burns down. Whose fault is it? Is it the person who put the lasagna in, or was it the person who's supposed to take the lasagna out? I'm hungry now. Roasted red pepper and goat cheese lasagna. Yep, I'm hungry. So whose responsibility is it? Whose responsibility? This person was working with the CIA. So there's claims that the indoctrination happened because of the fucking CIA indoctrination. Who's responsible? Who's responsible for it? Are they so incompetent at DHS that they just looked at the list and just signed off on everybody? But aren't they the ones saying that we've got the most stringent changes to rules and policy in regards to asylum of any administration? Do you take any responsibility? See, Christy, this is the reason that you're going to get dragged in front of Congress because you have lied so many times. You were asked in a hearing last week, in some of the best sound ever, don't need to play it for you guys, we've heard it many times. Have you ever deported and or arrested and or detained a combat veteran? No. Oh, with the exception of this guy or the person's wife who's standing behind you, and then you have to run and hide? Okay. Whatever. You got busted. You got completely busted. All right, I played that for you guys. I think I've got everything covered here. All right, just a little bit more on the fragmenting in the base. So when the Washington Examiner calls you out, right, for a lot of this shit, a lot of the lies, a lot of the, you promised this one thing. Yeah, we love that you're going after drug boats, but what about my cost of groceries? Why are gifts? We don't know why gifts are suspended. It could be because of the background. I don't know. Who knows? Let me change it. Just let me just change it real quick and let's see. Let's do. Oh, this one always works. No, I don't do that one. Yeah, fuck it. Who cares? Whatever. Subscribe to TikTok, YouTube, please. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget, we're streaming on YouTube. We're also streaming on Twitch. Please subscribe to both locations. I appreciate you guys. If we could get so I just crossed 125,000 followers on TikTok. I'm forever grateful. If each one of you, if you're out there, each one of you subscribe to the YouTube channel, that would put us in a really good position because the more followers you have and subscribers you have on YouTube, the more features it gives you. So if you haven't yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do so. You can find the link in the link tree in my bio. It's at the Factsstillmatter, just a little bit of a different username, but it's over there. Okay, so MAGA leaders are now warning Trump his base is checking out. Question is, will he listen? All right. If Donald Trump had his fancy appeal not approved, great. Had his fancy White House dinner, conservative pollster Mark Mitchell tried to explain that there was a disconnect between what the administration seemed to be focused on and what Trump's passionate base of supporters wanted to see. Mitchell's critiques echo a growing chorus of faithful MAGA supporters accusing the president of focusing too much on foreign affairs, failing to address cost of living issues, aligning too closely with billionaires and tech moguls, and resisting the release of the Epstein files. The reason he's only talking about foreign affairs, the reason that he's only talking about aligning closely with billionaires and tech people is because he doesn't have a solution to domestic issues. He just doesn't. Like, there is no answer there. So the only thing he's got is to act tough, build battleships, blow up drug boats, use missile strikes in Nigeria, oil, embargoes again, circling Venezuelan oil tankers, because they've got nothing. He can't run for the Epstein files because he's in them. So there's that. Got a request. Yeah, I'm not going to bring you up. Anybody with a Charlie Kirk profile picture doesn't deserve the space. So you can go bye-bye. Thanks for playing, though. Across the conservative spectrum, commenters warn Trump's coalition is weakening, raising fears of midterm losses as parts of the base growing frustrated with the pace of the MAGA agenda and the economic concerns that erode support among independents. Chief among them, the first person to really call this out, was MTG. In an interview with the Washington Post, Green said that Trump supporters want him to succeed, but the base is jaded. They know what they elected him to do, and they're aware that he's not doing it. Public polling shows mixed signals on Trump's GOP support. He retains backing from most Republicans, but that has dipped below what is traditionally 90% per party. Typically speaking, the party in charge has support from its own party of above 90%. His support has dropped to the mid-80s. That's a bad sign. Overall approvals hit a record low in late November, up slightly, but remains even lower than his first term. Quote, all we've really seen is punchy tweets, cool video edits, but really no follow-through on any of the promises. That was Savannah Hernandez, a conservative commenter who serves as a Turning Point USA contributor. The apparent softness has coincided with some Republicans emboldened to push back against aspects of the Trump agenda, including last week when the GOP state senators in Indiana blocked a White House-led effort to redraw the state's congressional maps. Pushing back. Many supporters have been turned off seeing what was once a full calendar of rallies in Middle America replaced with opulent events, deal signings with billionaires, and overseas travel. Mitchell told Trump his base wants to see him smash the oligarchy, not be the oligarchy. These are bad signs. The question is, will the president even care? I don't think he will. I don't think he does. I think that speaks to his cognitive decline. I think we went through with the FTD. We talked about the some people are diagnosing him from afar just based on his behavior. He's never cared about his base, so he certainly won't respond to them now. But he's in this for himself. He's in this to enrich himself and his family. That's it. That's all he cares about. His donors, that's it. So they're not going to have, there's no economic agenda. There is none. There's no economic agenda. There's no healthcare plan. They don't give a fuck. They just don't fucking care. Right? Like I said, they are malevolent and cruel and incompetent. Okay? So there's that. All right. I want to get into let me see who's requested. MAGA Fighter, you've got a Charlie Kirk profile picture. I'm not going to give you any space on my platform, so don't even bother requesting again. No thanks. Okay. So I want to talk about, let's back up a second. Actually, before I do that, let me just close the loop on media coverage. So we've talked about how, like, the Washington Examiner, far-right publication, right, is now coming out saying, listen, bro, we're all cool with blowing up drug boats, but could you start talking about, like, the economy? Like, could you start talking about how you're going to help us save some money? Because you promise us things like that, right? Thank you, Fernando. Appreciate that. It's so kind of you. Thank you, Fernando. You like the color? I mean, I would recommend maybe a gray for you or dark black to match the color of your heart. But that's fine. And then when you get, like I said, you get publications like the Washington Examiner, and then when you get conservative experts who are part of the messaging team at Turning Point saying the same thing, like, bro, you're losing support in your party here because you're not doing the things that you promised. Those are all bad signs. So what Fox is now doing, especially when it comes down to covering the e-files, this was a story that was reported by Fox News on Christmas Eve. The headline of their story, right? The top 5 takeaways from the Epstein files dump. Let's see what they are. Okay, let's see. This is the story. The Department of Justice released nearly 30,000 of documents related to disgraced late financier J.E. This is the latest batch of documents to be released. The files include a number of revelations, including a psychological assessment of Epstein's time in prison, a fake passport, and his cellmate's testimony about witnessing the financier's first apparent suicide attempt. The newly released pages also include a claim made by an unidentified accuser who said that former President Clinton's name was used as a way to deter her from coming forward. Again, the headline from Fox News, these are the top 5 fake takeaways. I didn't hear Trump's name mentioned once in their top 5 takeaways. Okay. A Bureau of Prisons psychological assessment released Tuesday showed that Epstein was considering to be at low acute self-unaliving risk and showed no signs of suicidal ideation just days before his death, according to internal prison records. The risk assessment conducted on July 9th, 2019 states that Epstein was placed on precautionary psychological observation due to high-profile nature of his case and not because he expressed intent to self-harm. That's one of the claims they made. That was one of the top 5 findings from the newly released information. Also, his cellmate's claim details what he saw during the financier's first apparent self-unaliving attempt. Newly shared Bureau of Prisons, or BOP, records shed fresh light on what Jeffrey's cellmate, Nicholas Tartaglione, says he witnessed during the disgraced financier's first attempt. Quote, "I was asleep with headphones on when I felt something hit my legs. I turned on the light and saw Jeffrey on the floor with something around his neck." Another one of the top takeaways. Epstein accuser said Clinton's name was used to deter her from coming forward. A woman who accused Epstein of sexual misconduct said she was warned that his ties to former President Clinton could prevent her from working if she spoke out. According to a sworn attorney release statement in Tuesday's DOJ document dump. Okay, interesting. Another top takeaway. Jeffrey Epstein's fake passport was revealed. The latest documents also include a fake passport that Epstein apparently used in the 1980s. The passport appeared to be issued from Austria with a name that Epstein was going by, Marius Robert Fortellini. It listed Saudi Arabia as his place of residence. And the other one was, is that the last one? Yeah. So they consider those the top takeaways from the latest document drop. This is what happens when you have the right-wing media protecting you. Okay? So I don't know how we get out of that space other than doing what we do here. Okay? So I've got one more little bit of sound that I want to play for you guys, I think, before we get into our story. This is from this. This is really important because I think this speaks exactly to what I was just talking to you about, how Donald Trump has been conditioned to be a man of the people, or his voters think that he will come to their rescue. So this is a gentleman who's arrested on a DUI charge, and he's standing in front of the judge, and this guy's not showing up for his court dates. He's been in charge in contempt. This happened just a few days ago on December 22nd. I just want you to listen to his response, and I'll be right back.
You've got charges pending in both the magistrate court and general sessions. You've got a driving under the influence going to Spartanburg Magistrate Court, and you've got a failure to stop for a blue light and a grand larceny.
Well, that's a lie because I took a drug test. I did a blood drug test, and it came back negative.
Up to 30 days on the driving under the influence.
Okay, well, I'm not doing that.
Sign right here.
I'm not signing that.
Okay, that's what I need you to know.
I'm also the traffic failure to stop for a blue light, no injury or death, first offense.
Do you want to give me a phone number for your mother? Your mother's in the back.
I'm not signing that either.
You're not going to give me a phone number for your mother to be text message?
No, that's okay.
All right. If you fail to make your court appearance, and your court appearance will be held.
I'm not going to court either.
I understand that. Your court appearance will be held January 22nd, 2026 at 2 o'clock.
Y'all feed me this garbage and feed lies and put this crap on TV and say I was driving under, excuse me, I'm talking.
No, you're not.
I'm talking.
Okay.
Driving under the influence and drinking.
Your bond is set at $902
I don't have no bond.
cash
I don't have no bond.
And you've got a $20,000 cash surety bond on the failure to start for a blue light.
Well, I'm not signing either one.
I understand that.
I'll contact Donald Trump if
You'll
I
now
have
exit
to.
out here.
All right. Okay. Come this way. Yep. I guess I'll be contacting Donald Trump then.
I'm just going to call Donald Trump. Yep, I'm just going to pick up the phone. I'm going to call Donald Trump because I'm not going to show up at court. I'm not going to pay my fine. Yep. The mere existence of Donald Trump has turned people into delusional people. Imagine breaking the law, going to court, and telling the judge you're going to contact Donald Trump. Dude, he's not going to pick you. He's not going to pick you. I play that for you because of what we just discussed, right? So we've talked about these right-wing journalistic publications who are saying, dude, you got a real problem here with your base. You're losing support. Fox News' top headlines have nothing to do with the fact that the current sitting president of the United States is all over these files. Everywhere. We've got this Lake Michigan story that I'm going to talk about in just a second. We've got the Larry Nassar letter I'm going to talk about in just a second. And Fox News says, yeah, well, we got to talk about Epstein's fake passport or his roommate in the first time he tried to take his own life or Bill Clinton, blah, 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 fucking blah, fucking blah. So this guy goes to court on numerous charges, DUIs, felony DUI, failure to appear, contempt of court. And his response is, I'm going to call Donald Trump. I got his phone. He'll take my call because I got one of his hats. I got a pterodactyl flag. I'll just tell him, Mr. President, yeah, it's Billy Joe Jim Bob from deepest, darkest Missouri. And I'm sitting in front of one of these radical left judges, and I need your help. Are you there, sir? Beep. That's what these people think. Armpit sweat. Yeah, I got armpit sweat. Sorry. I'm hot. I sweat. Whatever. That's what they think. Can you imagine? The judge's got to be like, dude, what the fuck? Missouri. Did I say it right? I think I said it right. Sam, did I say that right? Missouri? I think I did. Anyway, can you imagine? Can you imagine? Literally, and he's dead fucking serious. Dead fucking serious. I'm going to stand in front of a judge and I'm just going to call Donald Trump. I know the audacity of people sweating. I know the audacity. Okay, anyway. All right. So I find it really interesting that they keep going back to Clinton. Clinton saw like everyone's name, including himself, and he's just like, release everything. Go ahead. Release the files. My name's in there. Go ahead. Trump sees everyone's name, including his own, and he says it's a Democratic hoax. It's a pretty fundamental difference between the two. So what's the right going to say now? They want to try to call it the Clinton files. Clinton's like, go ahead. I don't give a fuck. Release it. I don't give a shit. Go ahead. Don't fucking care. Release it all. So the right's response to that is what? You guys keep coming at us and you keep saying that we're sitting here defending Bill Clinton. Have any of you, since this whole story come out, have any of you heard me one time defend Bill Clinton? What have I said from the very beginning about anybody connected to this? What have I said? Have I been consistent? What have I said since the very fucking beginning of any of this? Throw them all in fucking jail. Don't give, you're right, under the jail. Exactly. Don't give a fuck. So when your argument is, well, these are the Clinton files, and Bill Clinton's like, okay, well, I saw my name in there. I saw a lot of people's name in there. Go ahead, release everything. Because if you don't, it just shows you that you are covering this up. You're right. You don't redact a hoax on the redaction side. So like I said before about how this administration and the people involved in this are malevolent and incompetent. It's a bad combination. When you are incompetent and cruel, you get what you get. Now, I have not heard a lot of people talking about this. I'm not sure if maybe I'm alone on this island, but you guys, if you've been following along, we know that they did not go through the necessary steps to actually redact information. Because a lot of the sleuths out there were literally just copying the text that was redacted, putting it in a text editor, pasting, and then all the content that was hidden behind the redaction becomes available. So it's one of two things, right? You could say it was a mistake. You could say that they didn't realize that the information behind the redaction would then reappear if it was, just pasted into a text editor. Or maybe they knew exactly that would happen. Maybe there are people connected to this that are just so done. Cry for help. Yeah. I don't know. Like you're signaling with your eyebrows. I don't know. I know my gifts are suspended. I don't know why. Anyway, malicious compliance. So it's just interesting to me that this has been going on for as long as it's been going on, and they're still doing the same thing. They're still releasing information, and the text and the internet sleuths that are out there are still copying the information from the redaction, pasting it in a text editor, and you're getting all the names. So, and that leads me to this story about this letter, the Larry Nassar letter. I will read that to you because I think it's gross, but it's part of the story. So I'm going to read it to you quickly. So in case you guys didn't know, this is the letter. This was found in the evidence. And this goes back to this whole incompetence, malevolence kind of thing. If you claim, first of all, let me read the letter first. It says, "Dear Ellen, as you know by now, I have taken the short route home. Good luck. We shared one thing, our love and caring for young ladies at the hope they'd reach their full potential. Our president also shares our love of young nubile girls. When a young beauty walked by, he loved to grab snatch, whereas we ended up snatching grub in the mess halls of the system. Life is unfair. Yours, J.E." We know what the reference of grab snatch is. We know it's not dissimilar to the things that he said about grabbing women by the pussy, that whole 9 yards from the Access Hollywood tape. The issue now is the claims that they're making that this letter is made up. I don't know how it could be made up if it's in the files. We're seeing people on the right defending it, saying it's AI. I don't know how it would be AI. So I try to look at these things objectively and logically. Their claim is that it's AI. Okay? If it were AI, then why would they publish it to begin with? Right. Why would they publish it to begin with? So it can't be AI. It's real. The letter exists. There's debate about the timing. There's debate about the location of where it came from, but it absolutely exists. It is real, okay? Snopes has done a really good job on fact checking. Snopes is an agency that I trust. They do a really good job on they're a left-leaning institution, but they score very high through the media bias fact checker on factual reporting. So this is the story. They published this day before yesterday. The U.S. this is the claim. The U.S. DOJ released a letter purportedly from Jeffrey Epstein to fellow sex offender, birds of a feather, and former U.S. gymnastics team doctor Larry Nassar that said in part, quote, "Our president shares our love of young nubile girls." They rate this as true. The document was present in the files released by the Department of Justice in December of this year, but Snopes has not verified the message was written by Jeffrey. The DOJ said it had confirmed this alleged letter from Jeffrey Epstein to Larry Nassar is fake. So how can it be fake? Explain this. How can it be fake? How can it be fake if it's in the documents that they released? Remember, just before this letter came out, the DOJ issued this statement. The Department of Justice has officially released nearly 30,000 more pages of documents related to JE. Some of these documents contain untrue and sensationalist claims made against the president that were submitted to the FBI right before the 2020 election. To be clear, the claims are unfounded and false. And if they had any shred of credibility, they certainly would have been weaponized against the president already. Nevertheless, out of our commitment to the law and transparency, the DOJ is releasing these documents with the legally required protections for Jeffrey's victims. Okay, so the claim that they're trying to make now, and this is why it's hard to navigate through this shit. This is where our brains are firing. This is why I trust you guys. You're the smartest chat on TikTok, and I've got the best fucking team in the business helping me keep this straight. You can't have it both ways. You can't say that the claims made in the letter are false and the letter is fake and it's AI. It doesn't work that way. So what we know, but it's a hoax. What we know for sure is the letter exists. We know that. That is real. That defeats one of their lies, saying that it's not true, that it's fake. The document was present in the files released. The DOJ claims that it was confirmed. The DOJ said it had confirmed this alleged letter from Jeffrey Epstein to Larry Nassar is fake. They did a 2-hour investigation, apparently, after this came public. And they determined that in that 2 hours of investigation that the letter was fake. We'll leave that right there for a second. The Snopes investigation goes on to continues and says this. Following the release of the documents, the U.S. Department of Justice related to its investigation of disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein, rumors circulated online that one of the files released featured a letter from Epstein to fellow offender and former U.S. gymnastics team doctor Larry Nassar. Users shared the claim on social media platforms such as Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, etc., alleging that the letter referenced President Trump, specifically that it said Trump shared Epstein and Nassar's young or love of. Sorry, once again, users shared the claim on social media, alleging that the letter referenced President Trump, specifically that it said Trump shared Epstein and Nassar's love of young nubile girls. Many people sharing the claim also included a purported screenshot of the message in question. The DOJ briefly uploaded this letter from the files. Our president shares our love of young girls, etc. When a young beauty walked by, he loved to grab snatch, whereas we ended up snatching grub in the mess halls of the system. The claim that such a letter was included in the Justice Department's release of the files was true. However, it's important to note that Snopes was unable to verify the letter was genuinely written by Epstein. The Department of Justice said on X that it had confirmed the letter was fake. Okay, it's been in their possession for this long. It goes back, the dates on it are just before he took his own life. So it cannot be fake. The question then becomes, who wrote it? We've got more information on that. The specific file could be viewed on the DOJ's website, which included an evidence form, a handwritten note, and a greeting card that depicted a man and a woman sharing a romantic moment, and an envelope that featured handwriting addressing and a stamp indicating the letter was returned to sender due to the recipient being, quote, no longer at this address. Reach for the comment. The White House press office said, reached for comment via email. The White House press office directed Snopes to an X post made the morning of December the 23rd by the DOJ that read, again, I just read that to you. The Department of Justice has officially released nearly 30,000 pages. Some of these documents contain untrue and sensationalist claims made against the president. I just read that to you. The DOJ made another post that afternoon directly addressing this particular piece of evidence. The Department of Justice is currently looking into the validity of this alleged letter from Jeffrey Epstein to Larry Nassar and will be following up as soon as possible. In the meantime, 3 facts stand out. The postmark on the envelope is Virginia, not New York. This is true, where Jeffrey Epstein was jailed at the time. The return address listed the wrong jail where Epstein was held and did not include his inmate number, which is required for outgoing mail. The envelope was processed 3 days after Jeffrey's death. Roughly 2 hours after that post, 2 hours, the department posted again saying it had confirmed this alleged letter from Jeffrey Epstein to be fake. How the fuck does that happen? How do you release the, again, I'm trying to put the pieces together here, right? This is coming at us so far, so just bear with me. What I'm stating here is that they were in possession of this document. They knew that it existed. They knew the information was there. Their argument is, we are abiding by the law. We are releasing everything. They put out a statement in advance because they know how, this is what it looks like from public perception. They know how bad it looks. 2 of the most notorious sexual predators who preyed on young girls, sharing their thoughts about it, commenting how the president also likes them young and nubile, that he likes to grab, snatch, etc. They put out a statement saying a lot of the stuff that's written here is salacious and it's not supported with evidence, blah, fucking blah. It's intended to go after the president. I say that because they didn't put out statements like this when there was information released about Bill Clinton. They didn't put out statements like this when they released images of Bill Gates. They didn't put out statements like this when they released images of Mick Jagger and Michael Jackson, et cetera, et cetera. It just happens to be in advance of a letter that's really, really bad and really, really damning for the president. That's probably just a coincidence though, right? Sure. So They put out a statement when the letter comes out saying a bunch of sensationalized bullshit. They put out another statement says the DOJ is currently looking into the validity of this alleged letter. In the meantime, 3 facts stand out. They list the facts, the postmark, the return address, and the envelope. 2 hours later, the FBI has confirmed this alleged letter from J.E. to Larry Nassar is fake. The fake letter was received by the jail and flagged for the FBI at the time. The FBI made this conclusion based on the following facts. The writing does not appear to match J.E.'s, and we're going to talk about the handwriting analysis in just a moment. The letter was postmarked 3 days after his death out of Northern Virginia when he was jailed in New York. The return address did not list the jail where he was held and did not include his inmate number, which is required for outgoing mail. This fake letter serves as a reminder that just because a document is released by the DOJ does not make the allegations or claims within the document factual. Nevertheless, the DOJ will continue to release all materials required by law. If that doesn't project cover up, I don't know what would. I really don't know how you can look at this and two things cannot be true. Are you guys tracking with my logic here, right? How can 3 things be true? How can it be AI? How can it be fake? And how can it exist as part of the document dump? It just doesn't track. The stamp used, this is what we know. Again, we talk about things that we know here. The stamp used on the envelope in question appeared to be from the Hot Wheels 50th Anniversary Stamp Collection, released by the U.S. Postal Service in 2019. The postmark read NOVA 220, which indeed indicated processing at a mail facility in Northern Virginia. The return address was written as J. Epstein, Manhattan Correctional Facility, New York City, New York 10007. The addressee was written as Larry Nassar, inmate 9300 South Wilmot Road, Tucson, Arizona 85756. The address for a federal prison where Nassar was incarcerated for a time, though he was eventually moved due to threats to his safety. The actual name of the Manhattan facility where Epstein was held was the Metropolitan Correctional Center. Federal authorities closed it in 2021. Keen-eyed readers will note the letter was postmarked August 13th, 2019, 3 days after Jeffrey's passing by suicide. Many people sharing the claim said that the line in the letter reading, "As you know by now, I have taken the short route home," which was a reference to Epstein's intention to take his own life, allegedly. Grab Snatch likely referenced comments made by Trump, recorded by entertainment program. Grab Snatch likely referenced comments made by Trump, recorded by entertainment program Access Hollywood in 2005, in which the president said, "I can just grab them by the pussy, they let you," etc. Here's the quote. "You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful women. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet, just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything you want. Grab them by the pussy. You can do anything." So that in this reporting, the letter of the grab snatch, we know the president likes to grab snatch. You could make the inference that's exactly what he's referring to because he's told us that. Girls would walk by and he would grab snatch. Reached for comment on the matter of inmate mail, the Federal Bureau of Prisons pointed Snopes to its manual for mail management. The manual corroborates the DOJ's assertion that inmate numbers are required on outgoing mail. The manual stated that, quote, "Inmates will place correct identification, full committed name, register number, and complete institution return address on the envelope. Failure to include any of the above information will require the material to be returned to the inmate to correct preparation." Like the DOJ, some users raised skepticism about the authenticity of the letter based on its postmark date falling after Epstein's death. The BOP manual did offer a potential explanation how a letter could be postmarked days after an inmate's death. The section regarding outgoing mail, inmate mail, reads as this: "Ordinarily, all outgoing letter mail will be processed within 24 hours, excluding weekends and holidays. In any event, inmate correspondence and mail are under the purview of institution authorities. Staff will assure when special mail is received from the inmate. It is sealed, stamped, or labeled on reverse, dated, and the institution return address will be noted. This mail will be dispatched within 24 hours as provided in the program statement correspondence." Epstein's death occurred on a Saturday. So it's possible a piece of mail given to staff by an inmate that day or the day before would not have been inspected by mailroom staff until the following Monday and delivered to the post office on Tuesday, in this case, August 13th, the date of the postmark. However, that does not explain why such a letter would have been postmarked in Virginia if it had been sent from New York. Including handwriting analysis, including in the DOJ's case files, was laboratory examination request submitted by the FBI seeking handwriting analysis of the letter in question. The request read, FBI New York requests the laboratory perform a handwriting analysis comparing the letter received from MCC and the handwriting of JE to conclude if the individual who wrote the letter was Jeffrey or another unknown person. The FBI declined to comment on the results of the analysis. For further, again, here's the problem. So all of that tracks. I mean, I'm tracking that. This is the problem when you don't get transparency. So one way to determine whether the authenticity, first of all, the letter exists. They can't run from that. They cannot run from that. It's been reported. The letter exists. Decline to comment on whether or not, first of all, whether or not a handwriting analysis was done at all, and if it was, what were the results? It also tracks that because of the timing, this letter ended up at a facility that would not have been, could have, again, I'm just making assumptions based on what we have here. Because of the timing, when the letter was allegedly authored, happened on a Saturday, doesn't happen on a weekend, 2 days later, he's already passed away. What happens to the flow of that letter? Can't go to return to sender because sender no longer exists. So does that move it to a different portion? The BOP has not been able to explain that. That's one thing that they have not been able to explain. The letter is real. We can make that we can certainly make that assessment. It's not AI. It's not made up. The question is whether or not it was written or authored by JE. Okay? That's part of it. Everybody tracking that? I know it's complicated. It's complicated for me, and I spent a lot of time trying to figure this out. What we do know for sure is that the letter is not fake. What we do know for sure, as the DOJ, as this letter came out, they had to put out a statement saying, hey, a bunch of this stuff is in here, is bullshit, it's a lie, it's crap, they're just going after the president. None of those disclaimers went out in advance of anything else or any other individuals that were also named. I know the right likes to call them the Clinton files now. So are you saying then that everything that's in these files that relates to Bill Clinton is true and accurate? Because we already know that you put out a picture with Diana Ross and Michael Jackson and Bill Clinton and the faces of children blacked out. That had nothing to do with this. That image was from some award ceremony. Had nothing to do with this, right? So wouldn't you put out a disclaimer in that regard saying there are images in here that may connect this person with that person, these using the same words? But they didn't do that, did they? Bill Clinton, in response to that, says, listen, my picture's in here. Go ahead. Release everything. I don't care. Do what you got to do. I don't mind. I don't care. Do what's ever on your mind. It's not going to bother me. I got nothing to hide.
Hey, man. Hey, Steve, just wanted to drop in real quick. I had a quick point I wanted to make to you. I'm not sure if they have done the analysis yet. Have they done a handwriting analysis?
That's what I don't know. Apparently, a request was made to have it done, but that's where the trail stops. I can't find breadcrumbs past that.
Right. Of course, they will avoid that at all costs. And I just thought that it was possible that they could be planting some stuff in the files that are obviously not real, even though they know that they're not, so that they can claim other shit is also not real, if that makes any sense.
That's fair too. I mean, I think we can all. I know you're not a conspiracy theorist, and neither am I. But I think that's what happens when you don't get transparency, because the human brain tends to fill its head with whatever we want, whatever works for our argument. But I think that tracks. I think that absolutely tracks.
Let me let you go back to what you're doing. Thanks for having me up.
Well, before you leave though, why wouldn't how they put out that DOJ statement just after the Nassar letter drop saying, hey, there's a bunch of stuff in here that we can't confirm. We just think it's an attempt to go after President Trump. Why would they not do that when information came out with Clinton or with Bill Gates or with other people that were included?
Right. True story. 100% a true story. But you know, the thing about that letter, though, And you know, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I am all for. I love when we hear something. Last night we got good news from the Supreme Court. Not to change subjects, of course, but you know what? I look at this letter, and to me, it sounds like it. And I know this may be off, but it sounds like breadcrumbs. It sounds like they're going. He grabbed snatch. Like I've seen a lot of like AI photos that I looked into and then found out they were AI, and a statement from Trump that wasn't real that I read through. And it sounds a little like almost everything we want to hear. That's the thing about it that has me a bit suspect, only because it's like grab the snatch, our love, nubile. It's almost like he seemed to be smarter than that, Epstein. When he wrote shit, he didn't see. This seems a.
Thanks for jumping in today. Good to see you. Good to see you, friend. Happy
Good to
holidays.
see you, brother. You do a great job. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks, man. Take care. Bye. Bye.
Yeah.
It's a fair argument, right? I mean, this is the problem, right? This is the problem. This is the problem when you just have a malevolent and cruel administration, in particular those people in the DOJ who are also incompetent, right? Like this is what we get. So I want to see the handwriting analysis, and Tom brings up a really good point, right? It seems like JE was a little bit smarter than all of them. So why would you make this letter? Do you put this? Do you draft this letter, or does somebody draft this letter and put this in the file to create this era of everything is not credible? Who the fuck knows? This is the problem. This is the problem. But what they can't run from is their incompetence, right? They can't run from the fact that files that were put in there with redactions, all people had to do was copy. Listen, my mod team knows me. If I can figure out how to copy and paste items that have been redacted so where they're not redacted, then anybody can do it. Like, true statement. No one's going to deny that. Seriously. This is the problem we have now, right? This is why it's important that we continue to talk about this shit. Try to put the pieces together. Thank you, Jess. And to be perfectly honest, I don't even think the Nassar letter is the worst of the worst. This is the issue. You got these financial connections. There's no denying that Trump's name is all over these files. Again, I like what Danny said last week. There's no denying that the President of the United States' name are all over these things. They're everywhere. Everywhere. Everywhere, right? So we'll look into, obviously, I think more information is going to become available. I want to get into the Lake Michigan stuff, right? Because I think that's where this needs to go next. In case you guys don't know, there is this crazy story of a, let me just, how do I want to tell this story? I'll do my best to try to navigate through it. The story is such that there's reporting that the president impregnated a very young girl. Child was born. The child was tossed overboard. These are accusations and these are allegations. I don't want to get too much more into it other than that. For those of you who don't know, there's lots of resources we can point you into direction. But where it becomes problematic is that a lot of this information that's becoming available, more and more people are talking about it. So what does that mean? It just means that we've got more layers to peel off. Like there's reporting from a limo driver who overheard statements, right? We know that. We've got all these people. We've got names that were redacted the first time, names were put back in, letters were authored, letters were removed, files were deleted, files were redacted. It's just one big cover-up on top of a cover-up on top of a cover-up. Part of the story that I don't know if all of you know is, ironically enough, Donald Trump has a history with riverboats and gambling and Lake Michigan. Okay? So this goes back decades. 5 months after the Indiana Riverboat Gaming Act went into law in 1993, this story is reported in 2023, went into law, Developer, real estate mogul, and future president of the United States, Donald Trump pitched his proposal for bringing gambling to Gary, Indiana. Quote, we're going to build something that this area that includes Chicago that this area has never seen. It's going to be first class. It's going to be world class. The idea basically was Trump casinos called the Trump Princess. It's riverboat gambling, Gary, Indiana, Chicago, Chicagoland, Lake Michigan. Part of Trump team's proposal was a snazzy music video showing Trump's properties and video of him with celebrities like Michael Jackson, all paired with Tina Turner's song, Simply the Best. As WRTV reporter Norman Cox put it, quote, the Donald hit Gary with the publicity machine running full blast. Trump's $130 million proposal called for redeveloping a property owned by U.S. Steel with a gambling boat, hotel, and a marina entertainment complex. U.S. Steel being part of this story, U.S. Steel, investments in the Trump administration, ownership, tariffs. It gets really fucking complicated. I'm not going there just yet, but you can calculate it out already. Construction worker Joe Smith said he has all the numbers down, but not everyone was wooed by the proposal. He's a businessman, Gary Deputy Mayor Richard Comer said, and he's trying to use his best techniques. Sometimes some people respond to being overwhelmed, and sometimes they don't. The U.S. Steel property wasn't the only potential site in the running. Land owned by the Buffington Cement Company was also seen as a potential site for riverboat gambling. Community leaders toured both sites later that month, where the unsurprisingly encountered less than desirable weather. The list of developers still in the running for one of the two gambling licenses was whittled down to 4 contenders by December of 1994. Keep that date in mind. Each presented their proposals to the Indiana Gaming Commission. Trump touted his track record and financial clout. Although Gary officials voiced opposition to Trump's proposal, his organization was ultimately awarded one of the 2 licenses. Very happy, said Trump. Very, very happy. I think it's great. The other licenses went to a different Donald, Detroit-based businessman Don Barden. However, neither of the Gary-based riverboats were the first in operation. That distinction went to Casino Aztar, based on the Ohio River in Evansville in December of 1995. Trump and Barden's riverboat casinos opened in June 96, though their cruises didn't go far thanks to the Johnson Act, a 1950s-era law which prohibited gambling on U.S. territorial waters. President Clinton signed an exemption to the act that would allow the riverboats to leave the dock. Trump casinos filed for bankruptcy in 2004. The Trump Casino riverboat was sold to Barden and renamed the Majestic Star in 2005. There are too many things that overlap. There are too many things that overlap in this case. So let me get into that story a little bit more. It's because of proximity. It's because of timing. It's because when this reporting happened. Let me see here. Let me see if I can find the right piece. I've got so much information. One of the most shocking claims, headlines involving a tip on an FBI intake form that included files that were released. An important caveat, this has been an unverified allegation so far, not confirmed by law enforcement. A woman submitted a tip in 2020 saying that she was trafficked by Jeffrey and her uncle when she was 13. According to her tip, she became pregnant during the ordeal. She alleged her newborn was unalived and the body was disposed in Lake Michigan. This was around the same time that licensing was granted so that the riverboat could be involved. I know. I'm trying. Thank you, Erica, for that tip. So I'm trying to be very careful how we address this, but the timing just seems to make it's just too coincidental. Confirmed, finding by law enforcement. But here's the thing, right? That story in and of itself would really be, whatever. At the same time, he was negotiating, trying to have riverboat gambling. Privacy, offshore, I don't know. But the information exists, okay? Major media outlets reporting on this allegation characterize it as unverified and highly sensational, as we are as well. This is from the AP, and the DOJ has not confirmed the claim nor investigated it publicly. The document names the president as a witness, again, without corroboration outside the tip itself. DOJ statements emphasize that some released files contain unproven or false claims submitted to the FBI, and inclusion in the release does not imply factual accuracy. Once again, this is the problem, right? This is the problem we have with this information. When we get it like we're getting it, when there's so many layers, I mean, again, it's everything. The center point in all of this is the president of the United States. He's in the center of all of us. We didn't put him there. He put himself there. You are the company you keep. Again, we didn't put him there. He put himself there. It's not us. It's him. And I agree, truth spoken, we're not mad enough. I don't know how else to report on it other than, like I said, we report on the things that we know here. Okay, what we know is that this information exists. What we know is that there's this email thread between a limo driver, a communication between a limo driver of things that Donald Trump was saying to JE over the phone. I'm not going to repeat the things that he said because of how horrible it is. But this is the information that's out there now. Lawmakers across party lines have called for more accountability and faster disclosure. Some have even threatened contempt against actions against the DOJ officials over missed deadlines and perceived over-redactions. Can we trust the DOJ? The answer is no, we can't. And again, not because we don't want to, but because we can't. We want to be able to trust this information, but we can't. How can we possibly trust it? There's been one lie after another connected to this thing. One lie after another. But no one seems to, the right just does not seem to be willing enough to call it out. 75 Corvette, how are you today?
Hey, I'm good. 2 points I wanted to add. One of the things is, isn't there, because of Trump, presidential immunity now, and everyone was talking about now, well, you know, Biden could do things to Trump, that things that Trump did, and he'd also have the same immunity. Do you think that's part of why Clinton said, hey, you know, put it out there. I'm an ex-president too.
Immunity it's not just blanket immunity for criminality. It's immunity if you are doing things as part of your presidential rules and responsibilities and duties. It's not just like, you can't just go commit schmurder. You can't just go and, you know, do all these things because there's limitations of the immunity.
All right, that's good. I get a clarification. I mean, I'm not saying that Clinton's going to say anything was trying to be official, but that was my one thought.
I think what Clinton said is just like, go ahead, release everything. I mean, I think that's.
Well, I mean, look, at this point in his life, he's old. He's out of office. He's a forgotten man, basically, for the most part. You know, by the time this is all settled out, he might not even be still breathing, you know, so I don't think he cares. My other point was about the girl in Michigan. If you remember, one of the victims
let's be careful. Let's be careful what we say, Corvette, okay? Because this is a highly sensitive issue, so just be careful. Don't make any assertions.
Gotcha.
Give your opinion.
Gotcha. Okay? Accusations, let's say. There was one of the victims who spoke out. If you recall, she made, and you can go back and double check on this, but I'm pretty clear on it. I heard it multiple times during the time it was released, made reference to the fact that our beloved president there had taken a hand to her pretty roughly, sort of did the things that you do when you're not being nice to someone. And she said, she asked him to use a condom. He did not.
Yeah, I'm gonna cut you off right there because I don't want to go too far down that road. I made a commitment that I was not going to get too into the graphics details today. So,
okay.
But I appreciate you coming up today.
No, but I'm just going to. The point on that one was just that she said, when I'm afraid.
It's okay. It's okay. I got you. I appreciate that though. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Friends, I'm going to ask. I don't want everybody to be a journalist today. That's on us today, okay? If you want to talk about some of the things that I've shared, but I don't want to go down the road, especially for people who are victims of abuse. I'm here to try to draw the line. I appreciate people wanting to be involved, but I'm not here. I don't want people to go so far. Like I've always said, the way we do things in our little team, we would rather be last than right, than first and wrong, especially regarding such sensitive issues. Okay? It's in regard to some sensitive issues. So please respect that. That's the boundaries that we've made, and we're going to stick to it. Okay. So thank you. Appreciate that. Pocket, how are you? Okay, that's crazy. If you want to request again, you can. There was just so much background noise. We can talk about these things without re-traumatizing people. That's the goal, right? Now, you may not like that. You might feel like you want to get more salacious coverage. That's fine. I respect that. We're just not going to do that. We've already done that enough. We've already covered a lot of things. We've talked about Katie Johnson. We know about the claims that have been made. We know about the allegations. We know about the horrible, the birthday book reference. We know all this stuff, right? We've just decided that we don't want to re-traumatize people if we don't have to. That's our commitment. Like I said, you may not like that. That may not be your particular MO, and I respect that. That's totally fine. That's just a decision that we've made. Okay. So let me get into some of the other things here, and I'm going to try to talk about some of the things that are considered probably the most salacious without getting into the comments, because again, this information flies so quickly. It's hard to keep it straight, right? And I don't want to go too deeply into any one thing, because I want people to keep this in mind. At the end of the day, right? I hate that expression, but it works. There is an effort, a coordinated effort, incompetence aside, to protect people who are violating young women and girls, children and boys. That's the goal, right? That's what they're doing. They are protecting predators. They're now victim blaming. There are people on this app saying that these young girls, these children, as described in some of the previous statements that we've read about how Jeffrey would take them shopping. In many cases, they were shopping for training bras. That's how young they were, right? The Department of Justice, the administration, right-wing outlets, et cetera, are doing everything they can to protect the people that violated these children. To protect the people who committed these crimes, allegedly, against these young girls, children, in an attempt to cover it up, to protect them. It's gone so far, and it's gotten so bad, that there are people in right-wing spaces who are so dead set at defending their president against all odds and at all costs that they are literally trying to blame the young girls. That they knew what they were getting themselves into. That's how bad it is. And we haven't even gotten everything yet. And from my perspective, the way in which they are releasing this information is planned. Right? It's planned. The timing of how they're doing it, and the way in which they're doing it, and the content, incompetence aside, I go back to this theory that it's mine and mine alone. Someone had to know that it's so easy to unredact these files. Someone had to know that. Someone working in the administration or as part of the team had to know that this information can be easily redacted. Now, I think Tom mentioned this earlier, and I thought the same thing. Are they intentionally putting things in there? It's just my opinion, strictly my opinion. TikTok, F1 in the chat, please. Strictly my thoughts that are they intentionally putting information in these files so that they then can claim, you see, that was fake. Then nothing in here is real. Who the fuck knows? I think the way in which they have handled this, though, makes that impossible for people to believe. Even the most hardcore voters, even their most hardcore followers, I think they find it like impossible to believe. If they had just been consistent from the beginning, then they wouldn't be as much doubt. Some people are like, maybe there's whistleblowers here. Maybe there are people that are so absolutely just disgusted by this. They happen to work for the FBI now, but they could be the ones that said, oh yeah, we'll just redact you. You're good to go. Knowing full well that redaction, there's a process of what you go through, right? There's a process. There's a method to how information becomes redacted permanently. If you can try it, you can find a lot of these files, guys. You can just copy and paste it. Copy the parts that are redacted and then paste it into a text editor, and there it is. That's how we got a lot of this information. Don't forget, there was that one particular story about how Donald Trump initially it was introduced. It talked about his obsession with particular body parts on a woman, and then how what he did to these particular body parts, and how someone had noticed the damage done to these particular body parts, right? And that got public, and then somebody realized it and then went back and corrected it and then blacked it out, but the information had already been released. So this is the hard part now, right? This is where we're all at. We're all left to try to fill in the blanks. We're not going to get the type of reporting necessary for mainstream media. We're going to get graphic depictions. And it's my commitment to you that I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to lean in on something. If I cut you off, that's going to be my choice. If you don't like that, I'm not going to apologize for that. That's just the way it goes. I'm not going to re-traumatize folks. This is horrible enough to cover. We have to cover it because it's an important story, but I'm committed the best I can to not try to re-traumatize people. Just not going to do it. We're going to focus on what we know. And what we know is that this is a massive cover-up. That's what we know. There's no denying that. Okay? There's no denying that. We can still talk about this. Like, for example, the whole riverboat connection. That's weird, right? Is it just another coincidence? It's weird that you go through all this effort right around the same time that this story happened about this newborn body just disappearing. Is that just a coincidence? How the fuck can that be a coincidence? As is the case in many things, especially on the conspiracy theory side of things, conspiracy theories are effective because there's always one little tiny element of truth. One little tiny element. And it goes from there. In case you just missed it, somebody just mentioned, you might have just joined us. Mr. Trump was investing in the early 90s in a riverboat gambling a casino in Gary, Indiana. Also going up into Chicagoland, which would eventually make its way to Lake Michigan. That was around the same time that there was an FBI intake form taken, report by a young girl who was allegedly raped by Mr. Trump, got pregnant, child was born, and then discarded, we'll say. Happened around the same time. Cannot be a coincidence. Not with everything else connected to it. That's why I kept saying that this is bigger than any of us could have ever imagined. Than any of us could have ever imagined. I don't know if we'll ever get all the truth, but we're going to do our best. Good morning, Betta. How are you today?
Good morning. I'm good. I hope you are as well. I just had a quick question because this is outside of my expertise, obviously. The Freedom of Information Act, could that be used to verify things like this, quote, fake letter, as if it were used in the investigation for the self-unaliving? Like, this is confirmation that he did it. You know what I mean?
The problem, I do, yeah. So I think you bring up a very good point. So I think the FOIA request, Freedom of Information Act, FOIA, would be to determine the legitimacy of this particular document. What they can't confirm necessarily through FOIA, I'm not a FOIA expert, maybe somebody is, as to who the author was. So that's what we're trying to determine now, because there's questions whether or not Jeffrey actually authored this. So apparently there was a handwriting analysis done. We don't know that. Would FOIA uncover that? Potentially, I guess. So it's a fair question. It's a fair question.
Yes, thank you very much.
Sure thing. Have a good day. Appreciate you being here.
You too.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to keep it straight. It's not easy. You know, we're gonna do our best to keep covering it, guys. But what I'm trying really, really hard to do is to not just make it about all the sensationalized graphic headlines, because the story's bigger than that. Good morning, Tapley. How are you today?
Hey, good morning. I'm doing very well. Nice to meet you. I am walking in the rain in Los Angeles in case there's a little noise, so I apologize. But I just came up to touch upon what the last guest just asked. And I haven't been listening for long, but we do understand, correct, that the AP first reported about this Larry Nassar letter a couple of years ago. And as a matter of fact, you can look it up. The article still exists. The AP actually knew about this letter because they submitted a FOIA request. And through the FOIA request, they were able to get roughly 4,000 documents. The letter not being one of them, but they did see that it was cataloged as Bureau of Prisons evidence. And they also reported that allegedly, I think around 2020, whenever somebody at the Bureau of Prisons saw the letter and didn't really know what to do with it, just sitting around in the mailroom as a return to sender, allegedly it was logged by the FBI as something that they wanted to apply handwriting analysis to. And what we don't know at this point is if they ever did or not. Right. So I just wanted to make sure that guests knew that. And, that's all really.
That's a great point. By the way, enjoy the rain in LA. I know it doesn't happen very often. Thank you for being here.
I know. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
You too. It's a great point. So it's not like we're just finding this information out, right? This has existed for years. The AP through great reporting got this along with a whole bunch of other information. So that's my point about where the line or where the chain of evidence breaks. So we know the information has existed based on the timing. 3 days before allegedly his passing, what happened to it? The return to sender. There was no longer a sender. What happens then? How does it get cataloged? How does it get categorized? That's what we don't know. That's why this massive cover-up are arguably the biggest scandal in United States political history. I think you could easily make that argument. This makes Wall Street look like nothing because of how big this is and how many people this potentially touches, from sea to shining sea, globally. Millions of people involved potentially just because of the cover up, the layers of which it's covered up. Nabila, how are you today? Hello? Nabila? Hello? Are you there? I guess not. It's incredibly insidious. You're exactly right. Hi, Auntie. How are you?
Hey, Steve. Happy holidays to you, sir. How are you doing?
I'm okay. Yourself?
Oh, I've just been under the weather, but nothing to worry about. But nice holidays, just nice and cozy, perfect weather for it. So happy days.
Good.
I'd just like to ask you a quick question. You've obviously heard that the freedom of speech people, the Trump administration, the ones that have been criticizing European Union and European countries, union or otherwise, of not having freedom of speech. People are trying to be silenced. What you think about the fact that visas are being cancelled of people who have literally spoken out against the abuse of freedom of speech. So we're talking about the fact that we have our own interpretations of what we believe freedom of speech is, and we use it every single day. Like, I can turn around to the king and say, I think you're an absolute arsehole. Nothing will happen to me. But because they're trying to stop US platforms in Europe from being used as in an abusive way, especially being used to say things that go against our laws, visas are being cancelled, and I'm just wondering, surely that's against our freedom of speech?
I can't. I don't think I know enough about it from your side, Auntie. But I'm a big believer in freedom of speech. I mean, I think the justification that the administration is going through to try to claim that they're again justified in doing so is just diabolical. We know where they stand. We know that J.D. Vance, who is likely going to be the Republican nominee in 2028, says that white people no longer have to apologize for being white. It just gets worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, so for example, the EU commissioner, and this was somebody who was still commissioner while Britain was still a member of the EU, by the way, was one of the major reasons why we've ended up with having in Europe wide, not just for the EU, complex laws on governing digital media, especially social media, to basically make people accountable. You can still say what the hell you like, right? We're not going to stop you saying what the hell you like, but we will also go, hold on a minute, you've done something dumb, now you've got to pay for it. They have literally, the Trump administration has removed the ex-commissioner's ability to travel to the United States to conduct business or to talk to people about what's going on. And that to me just says, so it's one rule for thee, but not for me.
Of course.
So,
of course.
And it's bullshit at the end of the day.
It is. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's. I don't want people to accept this as normal because it's certainly not normal. This is the fight that we're in. But thank you for jumping in today, Auntie. I appreciate you for being here. Have a good day. Be safe out there. Okay.
And you,
thanks a lot.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Take care. Bye. Want to thank you, Taro. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Howdy, all you lovelies. I'm lurking and relaxing today. Shout out YouTube chat. Y'all are awesome. Extra big shout out to the mods. Steve, always appreciate you. Thank you for saying that. Also, let me send some thank yous to stand by. Thank you to Amanda. Amanda says, apparently your nails have triggered them this morning. Buy yourself a new nail color for the new year. Much love. Thank you, Amanda. I appreciate you saying that. It's hilarious. It's so true. It's so triggering. $5 train for your next year's healthcare costs since the current one is expiring. Thank you for that, KH. I appreciate you. Also to Kate. Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Kate. And to Savage. Savage says, your weekly $2 got you covered there. Thank you very much. Over on the CA, the Green app. Tom, thanks. Good job, man. Happy holidays. Things are tight, but I appreciate your time for jumping in and thank you for your kindness. Rainey, thank you so much for your kindness. Find your Zen today. I'll do my best. Also to Lisa, Fire Hearts and Fire. I love you all. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you. There's Stacey. Again, guys, I always appreciate you. I know how it's tough for everybody out there. Your kindness is never lost on me. I appreciate that so much. Okay, so looks like, again, because I have the most amazing fucking mod team there is, this was the AP story that our guest was referencing earlier. Let me just go through this really quickly. Lies, complaints, and Larry Nassar. Takeaways from the records detailing Jeff's final days. This is reported from June 2nd, 2023. Nearly 4 years after Epstein's passing, thousands of pages of records obtained by the Associated Press are shedding new light on the financier's time behind bars in a frantic response by federal corrections officials to his passing. The documents, including emails between jail officials and psychological evaluations, offer a fuller picture of Jeffrey as he awaited trial on trafficking charges at the now shuttered Metropolitan Correctional Center in Nassau. Epstein unalived himself at the federal jail in 2019. In the days and weeks that followed, corrections officials struggled to explain how such a high-profile detainee had managed to take his own life. The records show how he was moved from the jail's general population to specialized housing and how he was briefly on self-unaliving watch before being downgraded to psychiatric observation, his status when he unalived himself. Here are some of the takeaways from the more than 4,000 pages of documents. Epstein was anxious and despondent during much of his time in jail, prompting concern from jail guards and psychological experts about his mental state. He complained often about jail life, including poor sleep, constipation, the color of his uniform, and his treatment by other detainees. The noise from a broken toilet in his cell left him sitting in the corner with his hands over his ears, according to one psychologist. But despite his litany of complaints, Epstein insisted that he wouldn't take his own life, even after he was discovered on his cell's floor with a strip of bedsheet around his neck and placed on suicide watch for 31 hours. He denied that he was contemplating self-unaliving, which he said he was against. and against his Jewish religion. Plus, he added that he was, quote, a coward who didn't like pain. He described having a wonderful life. He said it would be crazy to take his life. He furthered, I would not do that to myself. A letter to another offender. Among the new revelations, this goes back to 2023. Among the new revelations was an attempt by Jeffrey to reach out to another notorious P3DO, Larry Nassar, the USA Gymnastics team doctor convicted of abusing scores of young athletes. A letter sent by Epstein to Nassar was found returned to sender in the jail's mailroom during weeks after Jeffrey's passing. It appeared he mailed it out and was returned back to him. The investigator who found the letter told a corrections official by email. I'm not sure if I should open it or should we hand it over to anyone, this person was reported as saying. The letter itself was not included among the documents turned over to the AP, which also don't indicate what became of the letter. He was found deceased the morning of August 10, 2019, after hanging himself, according to the medical examiner. Hours earlier, he appears to have successfully deceived jail guards one last time by telling them he wanted to talk on the phone to his mother, who had passed 15 years earlier. A correctional officer escorted Jeffrey to a shower area around 7 p.m. where he was permitted to make a 15-minute social call. Reports later indicated that he had phoned his 30-year-old girlfriend at the time. Weeks after his passing, a jail warden questioned why an employee had failed to follow policy by allowing him to make an unmonitored call. The document shed light on the lurching response to the Bureau of Prisons in the critical hours of his passing. In one email, a prosecutor involved in Epstein's criminal case complaining to an agency lawyer that it was, quote, frankly unbelievable that the agency was issuing public news releases before telling us basic information so that we can relay this to his attorney who can relay it to his family. In other emails, the prosecutor wrote of getting, quote, increasingly frantic calls from his lawyers. Quote, we need to know as soon as possible the very basic facts, such as time and cause of death at the absolute minimum, wrote the prosecutor whose name was redacted. It has now been hours since this was reported publicly, the prosecutor wrote, adding that it was extraordinarily frustrating to have to tell them that we have less information than the press does. See what I mean? I mean, there are so many layers to this story. There are so many oddities. There are so many inconsistencies. There are so many lies and deceit and deception. And we're just supposed to believe what? What we know. This letter is real. It exists. What we know. Donald Trump's name is all over these files. What we know is the DOJ has been absolutely incompetent in how they have redacted information, unredacted information, so their malevolence, their cruelty, and their incompetence shows front and center. What we know is that there are allegations made unverified, but names and dates and timing is suspect. What we know is there's lots of questions about this Larry Nassar letter. We know it exists. We know that according to the AP, this information was, this one particular letter was not initially released. So it became in possession of the DOJ. Why was that one letter segregated? Where is the apparently what we know is apparently a handwriting analysis was performed. We don't know if it was. We don't know if it was what the results were. We don't know any of that. So the conclusions that we're left to make on our own are this is a massive cover-up. Even our friends on the right who do the performative bullshit lies, they know it's being covered up. They don't want to believe their guys in it. They don't want to believe that. But I think they're starting to realize that something's not right, especially since there's a lot of people that are now pushing back. Republicans in Congress are like, I go back to how we started the show today. I go back to this simple point. The lengths to which people are going to protect people who have violated children. All of them. Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Mike Johnson, etc. The lengths to which they are going to protect the people who've committed these crimes, allegedly, against young women and girls, children. That's what we know. I don't have confidence that we'll ever get the entire story. I don't have confidence that most of these people will ever see justice. I don't. That's just a system built by people who look like me to benefit people to look like me. And now we're seeing it full display. A system built to protect people who look like me. And this goes down to this cold, hard truth that we talk about here a lot. You know, the dismantling of trust of our democratic institutions. Small d. Don't freak out, MAGA. Small d. Democratic institutions. How can we trust the Department of Justice? We got to be able to, right? But under this leadership, now, did I trust the Biden DOJ? I did. Because they didn't do what this administration is doing. Do I believe that there are things that we don't know as the American citizenry? Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't think we need to know everything. See, that's the thing about a fundamental difference between the right and the left, right? They feel like, oh, you guys got to tell us everything. No. But should they have done more, Josie? Absolutely. Can we trust SCOTUS? No. I don't believe anything that comes out of the White House. We can't believe the CPI numbers. All they do is run with a headline of 2.7%. But if you look at the data, you're right, Erica, good point. They aren't interested in democracy. They're not. If you look at the data from the CPI report, they're missing so many categories that always get measured every single month. But their friends their followers don't care. They just see the 2.7 number. Same thing with GDP. We talked about this before. GDP is up because spending's up, sure. But the middle class and the working class, the working poor, as I like to call us, we're not spending money. So all the money that's being spent is being spent by the 1%ers. They're the ones that are buying shit. Our imports are down, of course. So that 4.3% GDP, it's not fucking real. Sure, the number's real, but it's not about all of us spending more money. Inflation's up. I know, gas and car sales. So like we've put ourselves in this position where it's going to take a long time to come out of it. Hello, how are you? Happy Boxing Day, by the way.
Happy Boxing Day. I'm still sick.
You are,
which is crappy. But I sent you something on the cord earlier. I don't know if you saw this. J.D. Vance gave an interview just before Christmas where he basically said that it was very concerning that Britain and France had nukes, and if they were going to let themselves be taken over by something like a different moral code, then it was very concerning to the interests of the US that other countries had, what should we call them? Mozzarella sticks, right? And that other countries shouldn't be allowed mozzarella sticks if they were going to have opinions that are contrary to the US. It seems to me like they have no interest in democracy whatsoever.
No.
Well,
the constitutional republic, right, Erica?
Well, yeah, which is, of course, not a form of democracy in any way.
Right, exactly.
But I just find it interesting when you say, the country that first split the atom can't have nukes because we might disagree with the people that are in charge, or we might disagree with their morals. I'm quite happy, to be honest, for the government of the United States to disagree with the morals of my country if the morals of their country are covering up for P3DOs.
It's a great point. That's a great point. So I know how your brain works. I know you're a critical thinker. So when we get all this information, right, like I'm trying my best to not get into all the gory details, but there are just too many things that just can't just be written off as a coincidence, right? So we put the pieces together, and we try to fill in the gaps as best we can. Where does your head go when you look at all this stuff? I know they're all allegations now, and we're not saying anybody's guilty. I don't personally need any more information to connect the dots for me, but where do you sit?
So I'm going to be as generous as I can be in this situation, right? And I'm going to say there's no smoke without fire, and something is at least smoldering. At the very least, something is smoldering. And from the people who say that they want to protect women and children, I don't know how they could possibly make the argument of, no, he's definitely done nothing, he's definitely got nothing to do with this, without any level of wanting some kind of investigation to see where that smell of burning is coming from, right? Now I find it difficult to believe that even if he wasn't personally involved, that he didn't know something was going on.
Based on the timing, you're right. He would have had to. He would have had to. There's no possible way. Plus, the timelines that he shared with us about his ending his relationship, that doesn't match up anymore. We know that. His claims that he said that he was never on the flights, we know that that's not true. That he was never on the island, we know that that's not true. Well, we can't make that comparison because no flights can land on the island. But all of it points to the fact that not only has he been lying to us, but what has he been lying to us about?
Yeah. And Chris just said he didn't start the fire. It was always burning. That's correct. But he also didn't report the fire to the relevant authorities, and did nothing. He didn't go grab a fire extinguisher.
He did not.
He threw other stuff on the fire. So I think just being a critical thinker and being as generous as possible in this situation, he at least knew that something was going on, and he didn't do, even if he threw Jeffrey out of the club. Even if he threw Jeffrey out of the club, he didn't throw him out of the club and call the police and say,
that's right,
this is what's, something's rotten in the state of Denmark. He was more than happy to let those people carry on doing what they were doing. And this is my take on the whole thing. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And we're talking about a group of people who are the richest, most privileged people to ever exist on our planet. And the idea that they don't have in their heads that the rules are different for them than they are for everybody else. We know the rules are different for them. We know that they don't get incarcerated. Well, and if they do, they get, weekends off and they can have a puppy. They're not, even if we look at the way that, white collar crime is punished in comparison to all other kinds of crime, they can hurt way more people and get off way more easily than anybody else can. For some reason, we don't take crime that financially affects people, causes people to unalive themselves because they've lost everything, in the same way as we took it if that person took someone else's life themselves. And I think we need to start if we took that kind of crime seriously, then they'd realize that they couldn't do all these other kinds of crimes.
It's such a great point. Like we demonize poor people for stealing food from a grocery store, to feed their family. But yet crimes like this, can't believe it's fake news.
Yeah, if you were a serial shoplifter who was doing it over and over again, you would get a worse punishment than the many people who have stolen hundreds of millions of dollars from other people. And until we start punishing that crime the same way that we punish the people that steal the food to literally keep themselves alive, or to a worse, punishing them more, nobody's ever gonna. They're never gonna be held to the same standard on anything as the rest of us are. And I know you say people that look like you, and ostensibly you're right. Most of these people, are white men. However, they are this tiny percentage, even amongst white men, of super rich, super wealthy who feel like the laws don't apply to them. And I don't think they should exist.
I would agree.
Not as in I think they should, unalive, but I think,
gotcha.
They just shouldn't be able to get to that point.
I completely agree. What's been the general fallout with a person formerly known as Prince Andrew? What's been the general fallout over there? I'm curious.
Oh, the artist formerly known as Prince.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I think, right, so you have, when we're talking about the UK here, we have to remember there have been a series here of high-profile people that it has turned out were, I'll just say, hurting young people, right? We had the whole Jimmy Savile thing. We had the BBC's cover-up of knowing all of that. We've had multiple other high-profile. If anyone wants to know anything, you can look up something called Operation Yewtree, YEWTREE, which was a huge investigation into people who were hurting young people, and a lot of the people that came out as being part of that were very high profile. I think this country wants to hold people to account, including up to and including the royal family. I think, people want to see him investigated. They want to see him in court. But because of a lot of this stuff, it started in the USA. These people were trafficked to him from the USA. There needs to be, and I'm not saying he wasn't doing it here, he very probably was, but there needs to be an element of DOJ involvement in any British investigation into the artist formerly known as Prince.
He'll likely never see any jail time, is what you're implying, basically, right?
Yeah, I would like him to, and I think journalists here have been trying to hold him to account for this since 2010, since he was photographed with Jeffrey after Jeffrey was released the first time. Right. I think while the Queen was alive, anyone who doesn't know, Andrew was her favourite child. It was much more difficult to do that. I think now that the Queen's not here anymore, I think Charles is far more willing to, not that, by the way, they can stop anything occurring, but I think people are reticent while the royal family doesn't want it investigated. But I think they're much more...
Little Cain and Abel, maybe?
Yeah, rivalry. But I think it's much more likely now that Charles is on the throne that this will be investigated. But I still don't see any jail time because, again, rich white men be rich white menning, right?
That's exactly right. Thank you for your breakdown. Hope you're feeling better eventually. Enjoy boxing or whatever.
Yeah, I'm going to go out in the streets and just start punching people. That's my plan for the day.
I appreciate you. Thank you for being here.
No worries. Thank you so much.
Be safe out there. See you later. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, again, it speaks to, and thanks for jumping in, Erica. I think it just speaks to the whole, how global this is. And it's funny, if the conspiracy theories on the right, the Q conspiracy theorists on the right, if they got anything right, they talked about this global cabal, this pedophilic ring that existed around the world. They were absolutely fucking right about it. I don't think they came to the conclusion that it involved the people that they voted for or supported. But they were right about that. They were certainly right about that. So, yeah, it's interesting how that worked out. Spoonman, how are you today? Hello, Spoonman, are you there?
Oh, shoot. Sorry, Steve.
No problem. Thank you. Martha, how are you today? Martha? Are you there? Martha? I guess not. Okay. How are we to promote do something? How can we promote do something? Yeah, we're going to talk about that. Somebody asked a question about the story I read this morning about the Kushners. Hang on one second, and I'll put it in the mod chat for you guys, or I'll put it in the chat, and you guys can go. Hang on one second. All right. Oh, you can look at the NDAA, which is the National Defense Authorization Act. You can see, well, that's where the funding comes in. That's the money that we send to Israel. Once the Israeli government gets it, they decide how it works, and the Israeli government offers universal health care to their citizens, which is why we know it's the United States taxpayer dollars are supporting universal health care. That's the
Yo, how we doing? I'm good, my guy. So what's your argument?
What's my argument?
Yeah.
You requested. What did you request about?
Okay. I want to request because I scrolled past your the live here at the moment when you were talking about the cable, the pedo cable thing that the QAnon was right about.
Okay. Thank you, comrade. I appreciate you being here today. Have a good day. Yeah, nah. I appreciate you though. Look, this is not easy to talk about, to be honest. It's a weird. I'm trying to decide. I'm going to stick to our guns on how we want this to go, and how we want this story to be reported. There's more to these layers. We're going to get stuff out every single day. I do want to pivot just briefly to some of the other crimes that are being not always perpetrated by the president, but the crimes that he's forgiving. So Eliza Orlins, who I really like a lot, this is Liz Oyer. Liz Oyer is a former pardon attorney, and she's been tracking this. So I don't want people to forget that while all these other things are happening, the amount of forgiveness of egregious crimes against everyday people is being forgiven by the president. So this is Liz Oyer. Here's a breakdown for you. I'll be right back.
2025 has been a historically bad year for pardons. I already shared my top 10 stinkers, but 10 was not enough to cover the horrors that have taken place, so I've got 10 more for you. I'm Liz Oyer, the former pardon attorney for the Department of Justice. Number 1, Ross Ulbricht. He created a massive dark web marketplace called the Silk Road that trafficked drugs and other contraband. He earned hundreds of millions of dollars. Trump gave him a full pardon. 2, Scott Jenkins, an elected sheriff in Virginia who was selling badges for cash. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison, but Trump pardoned him before he served a single day. 3, corporations. Trump has actually pardoned 2 companies, which has never happened before. Both owed tens of millions of dollars to the government, but thanks to the pardons, the corporate bosses can keep their money. 4, David Gentile. He ran a massive Ponzi scheme that cheated investors out of over $1 billion. 17,000 people lost their money while he bought a private jet and a Ferrari. 5, Joseph Schwartz, a nursing home owner who stole $38 million from his employees' paychecks. He then paid nearly $1 million to lobby for a pardon, and it worked. 6, Lawrence Duran. He committed one of the largest Medicare frauds in history. He filed over 800,000 false claims worth $87 million. He owned a waterfront condo in Miami and drove a Maserati. 7, Ahmad Shah Zuberi, a major Trump donor who lobbied for foreign governments, including Bahrain, Turkey, and Libya. He pleaded guilty to a host of crimes involving tax evasion, fraud, illegal campaign donations, illegal lobbying, and obstruction of justice. 8. Michael McMahon, a former police officer secretly working for the Chinese government to stalk and harass a Chinese family living in New Jersey. 9. The Chrisleys, a reality TV couple who got rich through fraud. They were pardoned in May, and now they already have a new TV show. 10. Tim Lewicki, a wealthy sports executive who got a pardon because his lawyer asked nicely while playing golf with the president. Honestly, I could keep going, but I won't. Trump's abuses of the pardon power have been a low point of 2025. I'm grateful to all of you for following along with me because that is the first step toward holding him accountable. Here's hoping for a better 2026.
Her name is Liz Oyer. It's Oyeer. She's a former pardon attorney. So, the reason I wanted to share that is because we cannot forget how deep the corruption goes in this administration. If the JE files weren't bad enough, and they are, there's nothing worse in my opinion. It's how deep this goes. Right? Instead, what we get is the right saying, well, Hunter Biden, you guys pardoned Hunter's cock. No, we didn't. The president pardoned his son because the current president threatened to go after him. Yeah, well, it's because of Hunter's cock. Listen, I would love to be able to have an objective conversation about the power of the pardon because of things like nepotism and shit like that. I have no problem having that conversation. But you can't compare. You can't compare Joe Biden commuting the sentences of first-time drug offenders. You can't compare Joe Biden offering preemptive pardons for his son and for members of the J6 committee because they were under threat. Because the administration, the current administration said flat out, we're going to go after you. You cannot compare it just to the list of people that she just mentioned. These are all people who are prominent Trump donors. The pardon power has become a fucking money-making scheme for the president. Never mind, that doesn't even touch on the J6 criminals. Daniel Rodriguez, pardoned, tasered the neck of a cop. Again, MAGA, I know you're in here. You pathetic, what are you doing there, doggy? Hello, sir. You pathetic fucks don't care about law enforcement. You never have. You don't give a shit. You don't care. You'll have your thin blue line flag hanging on your front lawn. You'll cheer law enforcement when they walk by in the parade. You'll donate to the police benevolent fund. You'll go to the car wash. But you're fine with the president pardoning people who beat the shit out of them within inches of their life. You don't care. You just don't give a shit. And so you voted for this guy. You voted for a guy who said that he cared about law enforcement. You voted for a guy who said he stood for law and order. You voted for a guy who said he would make your lives better. You voted for a predator, a twice impeached, 4-time indicted, sexually abusing, fraudster, predator, name on a list, 34-time convicted felon. That's what you voted for. And you don't care. And you don't care. You don't care. And there's people like, I just sent Katie Marie an invite. Katie Marie says J6 was staged and totally fake. Now, you could just be trolling. I did, Tom. I got you, bud. Thank you. Thank you, Tom. I got you, man. I did thank you. You may not have heard that, but thank you, sir, very, very much. I appreciate you. This is what I mean. Like, you all, everybody who cast a vote for Donald Trump, you are responsible for this. You are. I don't give a fuck what your justification is. I'm sick and fucking tired of you saying, well, I don't agree with everything he says, but he made my wallet bigger. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. I would give up every last dime I had to defend the rights of people who are marginalized, who are harmed on the daily. It's never been about money for me. Not once. Don't fucking care. For you to sit there and just continue to justify this shit, and then you come into comment sections or you host lives and you celebrate suffering. You cheer on the president promoting messages like he does on J6 or that he does on or whatever else it might be. The radical leftists using the R slur. You don't give a shit. He's literally promoting political violence every fucking day. Every day. He promotes political violence every day. And his followers line up. You did this. The 78 million of you, you did it. You're responsible. And you entitled leftists who didn't show up to vote because you got your fifis hurt because it wasn't perfect, you're to blame too. Don't think you're safe from my from my fire. You're not. You're not. We might align on many things in support of causes, in support of human rights, but you didn't fucking show up. You just bailed. And then many of you decided, wow, this is really bad. I'm leaving the country. You prove what we talk about every single day. We're still here fighting. We ask black women to show up every fucking election to save us from ourselves. They always show up. Where the fuck were you? Where the fuck were you? So instead, I agree, Kipper. So instead, this is what we got. I think there's a difference, though. I'm sensing this, whether it be the do something that we talk about, whether we promote these causes, whether we stand in support of marginalized communities and ask to be an accomplice and get our hands dirty. People are paying attention. People are paying attention. I don't know what that looks like for the future of our systems. Again, we will have a new president. There will be a new Congress. That will happen. But it's the democratic institutions that I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about the press. I'm concerned about science. I'm concerned about our liberties and what free speech means. I'm concerned about those things. I don't want this to turn into, let me be careful how I say this. I respect individuals' rights. I really, really do. And part of the free speech debate means that we have to accept some things that we don't agree with. I'm fine with that. We all should be. We all should be. We all should be fine with that. I want disagreement. I want legitimate political discourse. I want to fight across the table, figuratively speaking, tooth and nail with somebody who I disagree with politically. I want that. I'm desperate for those days. I want that. I want to solve a fucking problem. Yeah, the press is bought and paid for just like everything else. See, that's giving up, right? For you to make that statement that the press is bought and paid for. The press now is bought and paid for, Donnie, because your administration supports these fucking collaborations and these massive mergers, suppressing the speech. Conservatives of all groups of people should be the ones that are the most angry because they've been the ones that have been bitching about it forever. You don't want the consolidation of the press. You want expansion of the press. You want more people talking about it. Again, I'll put the plug in for independent journalists. Friends, I'm sorry that I don't know. TikTok is not like me today. Maybe the background, I don't know, but gifting is not available. Want to support the channel? You can do that through Cash App, PayPal, Venmo. Exactly, Kipper. Totally agree. I am really worried when I shared this story with you before about how the Fox News decided that the top 5 stories as it relates to Jeffrey Epstein are not victim stories, are not survivor stories, are not emails. It's Epstein's passport or references to Bill Clinton or whatever it might be. Or when we have the right-wing echo chamber like the Washington Examiner talking about how bad things are for Trump, but not really telling the entire story. Kipper, hey, come here. What's this? Listen, we've got a lot of work to do. And I see a lot of people that are just going to chirp. And you can chirp because you don't have a leg to stand on. The reason it's not that I'm afraid to talk to people. I'll talk to anybody. But I'm so tired of people just wanting to hate others for no fucking reason other than they're told to. Other than they're told to, right? Why? You know, every single day it's something new with the people that you support from a political perspective. You know, all the things with Trump. You know, we get the entire argument, we get the entire story about the young Republican clubs. Make you sit down, Raider D? Yeah, you and your one follower, get the fuck out of here. You get the story of the Young Republicans Club, right? That wasn't bad enough for MAGA. Members of their own party, the future of the party, never mind the future, it is the party now, promoting Yahtzee messages, so talking about how much they love Schmittler, and you all think that that's okay, and you think that that's free speech. Like with leadership, like freedom, with freedom comes responsibility, right? With free speech, just because you have the freedom to say it doesn't make it right. George Carlin said it best. If cocaine enhances your personality, what if you're an asshole? If you're a Yahtzee supporter and you're a Yahtzee sympathizer in our country, you can say it. Is that how you want to be remembered? You want to be remembered as somebody who's supporting a network of predators that abuses young girls, children? Don't forget, there are people in this space that really ask the question, what's wrong with raping young girls? Johnny, our friend Johnny Palmacetta, has a video that's circulating now. The sound is viral. There are people that are saying these young girls, some of them in training bras, cotton underwear, they knew what they were doing? Really? That's the hill that people are willing to die on? That's how far they're willing to go to support their vote? Because they don't like brown people? Because they're afraid of the trans community? Because they're afraid of books? Because they don't want society to move forward? Because they're afraid of science? Because they're afraid of smart people? They're desperately afraid of women, brown and black people. You've sold your soul because of that? And you think it's a flex to go into you think it's a flex to go into left-wing spaces like this one and insult me? You think it bothers me? You know what bothers me? The harm that you've done to communities that I care about. That's what bothers me. Your weak ass takes and your ad hominem insults and your daily death threats that I get every single day from you people. You think that bothers me? Nope. I don't give a fuck. What bothers me is that you support and defend predators. You support and defend people who have raped young women and girls and boys. What bothers me is you go after teachers, scientists, election workers, everyday Americans, people who are out there standing, just defending themselves and the rights of others, and you think they're threats. You think people who speak negatively against our country, which, by the way, that is a fundamental tenet when our country was founded. Our founding fathers encouraged that dissent. Encouraged people to speak out against the government. And now if we do, we're threats. Here, the thing about it is that none of you care about the Constitution. You're right, Tom, it is. None of you care. You don't care about the Constitution. You don't give a shit. We tell you you're in a cult because you're in a fucking cult. We don't need you to move society forward. We don't. There's more of us who believe in the rights and protections for others than there are of you. We spent an entire day on Wednesday talking about the do something spirit. Things that you can do. Volunteering in your community. Using your skills in whatever area they are. Are you good at public speaking? Maybe somebody's shitty. Maybe you can offer to do something for them. Are you good with your hands? Are you a good builder? Are you good at baking? Whatever the fuck it might be. Whatever the fuck it might be. I don't care. I don't care. I am so tired of apathetic, entitled people who think that they can just live their life and go about their business. Nope. Nope. You all want to do me a solid. I know you say that what we do here every single day really influences your life and makes a positive impression, and I really appreciate that, and we're honored by that. We talk about it often. If you really want to do us a favor, then do something. Whatever the fuck it is. Whatever the fuck it is. I don't care. I built an entire, again, you can go back and watch the live. We talked about this all across the board. Volunteering after school, volunteering in your communities, helping a neighbor. I shoveled snow 4 times yesterday and again this morning. Knock on someone's door. Do you need some help? If you see a lawn that needs to be mowed, knock on someone's door. Just do something. Just do something. Oh yeah, I've seen reports about the Heritage Foundation exploding too. I don't want to wait for that. I don't want to sit by and watch it explode. I want to throw gas on it. I'm concerned about the future of our country because I'm concerned that not enough people will do something about it. That's what keeps me up at night. It's not that I know that we're not capable of doing things that are positive. Who's going to do it? I want the next elected officials, I want people to campaign on saying, I'm fucking done with supporting Israel's giving them money. Fucking done with it. Done with it. Done with it. Somebody going to take that stand? Who's going to do it? I want a matriarchy. I don't want to sound like a broken record. I know I say this a lot, but that's what I want because the things that should matter to all of us will become a priority. We wouldn't be talking about fucking extensions of their tiny dicks. The golden platoon or whatever the fuck it is. Building more battleships? Give me a fucking break. Are you fucking kidding me? More battleships? 25 million Americans, myself included, are going to see the cost of our health care go up as much as 300, 400% in many cases in a week from today. All right? Do you think we give a fuck about battleships? Do you think we care? Do you think we care about arches in D.C.? Do you think any of us give a fuck about that? And most Americans don't either. But 70 million or 77 million of you voted for that shit. That is your legacy. You are going to be remembered in history as voting for people and supporting people who are part of a global pedophile ring and you're involved in the cover-up. I'm not connected to that. But leftists are the threat. Progressives are the threat. Radical people on the left who support education, healthcare, food, water, shelter, and we want anybody and everybody connected to these crimes exposed and held accountable. We don't give a fuck who it is. We don't care who it is. You can't say that. There's 90 million people in our country that don't vote. Shame on you. It's the least you can do. You can drag your entitled ass for whatever fucking reason it is and vote. Oftentimes, if you can't make up your mind and you don't have the perfect candidate, then I want you to think of 2 words: harm reduction. Which of these 2 major party candidates, for now, because we all want more options, but for now, which of these 2 major party candidates will harm me and my family the least? It's really not that complicated. It's the least you can do. Just look around. Just look around. People are losing their homes. Mortgage foreclosures, credit card debt approaching all-time highs. But brown-skinned people. People are losing their health care, SNAP benefits, but the LGBTQI community. People are losing their jobs and their livelihood, but immigrants. Children are being unalived in schools, but got to have the 2A. Australia. And talk about this briefly. Australia has strict gun laws. So why didn't they prevent the Bondi Beach massacre? So this is from Straight Arrow News. I'm not sponsored by them. I just like the way they report the story. It was a delightful day at the Port Arthur Historical Site for people who were born there on April the 28th, 1996. But about at 1:30 that afternoon, the popular tourist center in Tasmania, Australia, became the site of the deadliest mass unaliving in the country's history. The shooting left 35 unalived and led to extensive new gun control laws. Afterward, gun homicides dropped from 2.9 per 100,000 in 1996 to about 0.6 per 100,000 by 2023. By contrast, the U.S. reported 5.6 per 100,000 in 2023. These tough gun laws, however, did not stop two armed men using legally purchased weapons from opening fire on a group of people celebrating Hanukkah on Bondi Beach on December the 14th. The Bondi Beach shooting raised the stakes for gun control laws in Australia and beyond. To one side, the unaliving is proof that tough laws don't always work, while to the other, it demonstrates that the laws need to go further. You know what Australia did? They immediately gathered the legislature. Immediately. There was no delay. Within 2 days, they reorganized and said, what else can we do? Think we do that here? Of course not. Thoughts and prayers. Of course not. This is who we have become as a nation. I'm angry, in case you didn't know. I'm angry, but I'm also incredibly sad by it because I see the suffering. I see it. And if I, a privileged white man in America, can see it, then why can't other privileged white men in America see it too? What do you want your country to look like? I want the palette of diversity. I want inclusion. I want equity. I want accessibility for everyone. I want our country to finally stand up and say the things that should matter to all of us have got to start mattering to all of us. And right now they don't. People are getting sicker. People are getting poorer. People are stressed more. You're going to see rates of unaliving go up. We're already seeing life expectancy in the most powerful nation on earth is getting shorter. Think about that. Life expectancy in the United States of America in 2025, the most powerful nation on earth, a nation that apparently has got just extra cash lying around that we can go build battleships. Our life expectancy is getting shorter. I'm 58. There's no fucking way I'm going to be able to retire. No way. No way. It's not about me, but that's just reality. That's just reality. Why? Because we've given up on being involved. We've become so apathetic. The empath in me is like, yeah, I understand why, but I don't give a fuck why anymore. Can't do it. We just can't do it. We cannot sit by the sidelines anymore. We cannot just stand there with our hands crossed and stomp our feet and be pissed off and point fingers. We've got to fucking do shit. Something. Anything. I don't care what it is, no matter how big, no matter how small. I wrote a letter to America about what we can do. I think it's posted somewhere in our Discord. I don't remember. I'm going to read it again. It's worth it. I don't know. Hang on one second. I see things that around us every single day that are so easily fixed. If just people could just lean in a little bit on their compassion. To my fellow Americans, it's easy to feel overwhelmed right now. The news is loud. The problems feel enormous. The divides seem permanent. Many people are tired of arguing, tired of being disappointed, tired of feeling like nothing they do really matters. But here's the truth we don't hear often enough. Democracy does not survive because of presidents courts, or headlines. It survives because ordinary people decide to care about one another anyway. You don't have to fix the country. You don't have to change the system overnight. You don't have to be perfect, loud, wealthy, or powerful. You just have to do something. Something small, something local, something human. Check out a neighbor who's been ignored or pushed aside. Support a community organization led by people who've been historically excluded. Volunteer at a school, a food pantry, a shelter, a legal clinic, or a mutual aid group. Listen, really listen to voices that aren't usually centered. Show up to a town meeting. Register someone to vote. Help someone get to the polls. Run for a local board no one else wants to serve on. Democracy isn't only about elections, it's about belonging. Marginalized communities, whether defined by race, by disability, income, immigration status, gender identity, geography, or history, have always carried this country forward while being told to wait their turn. Uplifting those communities is not charity. It's not a favor. It is the work of a nation trying to live up to its own promises. When we invest time, attention, and dignity where it's been withheld, we strengthen everyone. If you feel powerless, start where you stand. If you feel angry, turn that into service. If you feel cynical, choose hope anyway. Not the passive kind, but the kind that shows up even when it's uncomfortable. History doesn't only move because of sweeping moments. It moves because millions of people quietly decide to act with decency, with courage, and with care. Your voice matters, your presence matters, your effort, no matter how small, matters. Do something, do anything, and then keep going. Our communities are worth it, our democracy is worth it, and so are we. I believe that shit. I know what we can be capable of if we just start to focus on the things that are really, really important and do something. I think we'll end there today. I appreciate you all very, very much. I appreciate your faith that you have in us. We'll continue to cover the Jeffrey files because it's obviously the story of our day. We will do that. We are going to, like I said, we're going to continue to cover the way in which we choose, which is to not get into all the details. We'll do our best to try to report on it, but I'm not going to expose people that have already been traumatized by this shit. There's no reason for us to reopen any wounds, so we'll do that. But thank you again for being here. Friend, who are we going to mod, friends? Who's out there? Anybody that's out there that we want to, that's live right now? Anybody know anybody who's out there? The usual subjects are probably live today. I'm not sure. Listen, joy is resistance. Johnny, everybody go raid Johnny. Everybody please go raid Johnny. Anybody, joy is resistance. Whatever that looks like, find something. I don't want it to be as heavy sometimes as it comes across, but I do these things, and the way I do it, I'm a passionate person. I wear my feelings on my fucking sleeve. And my hope is my passion will turn into your passion. And you will be like, I watch Steve and he's fucking angry about shit. And I can do something. I can do a little bit more. I respect what he does. I may not like him all the time, but I respect what he does. That's fine. That's fine. That's what I want. Yeah, Johnny Palmadessa, friends. Thank you all for being here. Mods, I love you guys. Merry Christmas, everyone. If you still have family around, make sure you're finding some time for yourself. Make sure your cup is as filled as it possibly can get. Please do something, friends. Doesn't take a lot, but please do something. Thank you on behalf of us for your trust in us. We'll see you Monday morning, 8 o'clock Eastern time. Go raid Johnny Palmadessa, and we'll see you on the other side, friends. Have a great weekend.